Critical Frames, a PlayStation podcast, is available on all mainstream audio and video feeds. Find out how you can support the show by heading over to patreon.com/criticalframes.
Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Critical Frames, a PlayStation podcast. We are back after the PS5 Pro pre-orders have went live. We've got a lot to talk about there. Silent Hill 2 reviews are out. We got some new Metal Gear news. It's going to be a great podcast. But before we get started and talk about all that juicy content, let me go over to my co-host Joe and ask you, how has your week been, Joe? Have you been doing anything interesting? It's been about 10 days since we last recorded, so I'm sure you got something for us.
Yeah, I mean, I got sick after going to London, which is what I talked about on the last episode, because when you're on those trains, it's just like a cattle car of bacteria and flu, and makes you want to wear a mask to protect yourself, you know?
And people will be like, why are you wearing a mask?
Yeah, it's like, no, I'm not ill. I just don't want to get ill. So I haven't been like running, really, because I don't want to put that shit on my lungs, you know? Like, I don't want to like stress my respiratory system out, because like I have like big time paranoia with like pneumonia and shit like that when it comes to that stuff. So it's like I don't want to touch that shit. So don't want to make the problem worse. And so I've been playing a lot of games the past week. Yeah, 2 weeks. I've beaten Astro Bot, platinumed it. That was great.
Nice.
And I've beaten Dead Rising, the remaster thing, twice as well.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm going for the platinum currently on that. And then I've been playing things like Terraria and stuff with the buddies. And not really been playing any Minecraft. But yeah, I've also been modding Cyberpunk as well.
Damn, sounds like you need to touch some grass, bro.
Yeah,
wow.
Yeah. The turns have tabled because...
Yeah, because guess what? I haven't played... Spoiler, I haven't played any games in over a week. So the tables really did how the turns have tabled. Yes. How the turns have tabled.
Yeah. But what about you?
Well, I don't want to get into the specifics because I want to save that for when we go into our PS5 Pro talk here in just a second. But outside of kind of the main thing I want to talk about, the week's last week or so has been pretty good. Trying to think of anything really. We went and visited my parents in Tennessee. That was fun. We got to do you, this might be a dumb question. Do you know what Build-A-Bear is over there in UK?
We have them. Yeah.
Okay. I wasn't sure. Yeah. So those came around when I was like 7 or 8. I've never done one before, but my parents wanted to do a Build-A-Bear for my daughter. So we did Build-A-Bear. She got a bunny rabbit, which the stitching came loose immediately. So I was like, come on, Build-A-Bear. Like this is supposed to be exactly what you do. But we got that fixed. It's fine. So we did that, had a good time with my parents. Just been working. Had a lot of stuff change at work this week. We had a big like company change thing at work, so it's been kind of hectic, but yeah, good week. I've been really busy. Like I said, I haven't played any games in like almost 10 days, which is crazy for me. But yeah, it's been pretty solid. So,
nice.
But unless we got anything else to talk about from our weeks, I'm excited to get into this PS5 Pro news.
Well, we'll segue into that, but I got the anniversary.
Okay, see, you're dropping the spoilers heavy here. Okay,
yeah, I am.
Okay, so this is the highlight here to kick off the topic. But let me bring us in, Joe. Okay, you ready?
Yeah.
So basically, we knew that the PlayStation 5 Pro was coming. It was heavily rumored, and then eventually it was time for a announcement from Mark Cerny, a 9-minute video. We talked about this last week, and basically the video came out. It was Mark Cerny. He was announcing the PlayStation 5 Pro. Kind of talking about what it could do, what their goals were. It wasn't the best showcase of really what they wanted to sell. It was a hard pitch for how much the console would end up costing. But he pitched basically the main point was that the performance modes and the fidelity modes that you know now, how you can choose between one or the other, the goal of the PS5 Pro was to make both of those come together and you can have them both at the same time on the Pro. The 60 frames plus the good graphics of the fidelity mode. But he showed off a couple games that were usually either older or like a last gen game that had been brought to PS5 Pro. So it wasn't the best showcase. And then it dropped with the price of $700. And that really made people go, oh man, this isn't worth it. This is too much money. People were like, oh, you could build a PC for that. And then so the discourse broke out around that. And we talked about that on the podcast last time. And then roughly a week, maybe less later, they announced there's going to be a anniversary edition of the PS5 Pro for the 30th year of PlayStation. and it's going to have the gray color of the original PS1, not only on the shell sides, but the center as well, the part that can't be changed out. So a fully customized PlayStation 5 Pro to look like the original PS1. It's going to have the original colors of the icons, the sacred symbols on the controller, everything. It's going to be this really neat console. Comes with an Edge controller, as well as the normal controller. Is going to be about $1,000. But the big kicker was there's only going to be 12,300 of these available, which is such an astronomically low amount. Those are guaranteed to sell no matter what, because I mean the PS5 Pro is going to sell likely millions. So 12,300 is just, you snap your fingers and they're gone. So then it came to, so that was the discussion for a while. Then it was like, okay, people were they talked about the price of the console, but now the conversation was, oh man, I want the anniversary, but there's only 12,300. I'm probably not gonna be able to get one. And we were approaching the date of when the pre-orders went live for the PS5 Pro from PlayStation Direct, which was September 26th.
Yes.
And so these were going to go live at the same time. The PS5 Pro Standard, as well as the PS5 Pro 30th Anniversary Edition console bundle that only had 12,300, plus some the Portal in the PS1 Anniversary, the controller and the Edge controller, as well as the original PlayStation 5 Slim console in the Anniversary Edition. So Joe and I were, we talked last podcast about like, what are you going to get? What do you think you're going to get? Joe was saying, hey, he's going to try to go for the PlayStation 5 Pro Anniversary console. And I was saying, I don't know if I'm going to go for anything. I'd kind of like to go for the Pro regular, but I just don't know if I'm going to be able to afford that. I might have to live vicariously through you.
Yep.
And that's where we left off. And then it came to the day of September 26th when the pre-orders went live. So like I said, these went live only on PlayStation Direct, not Best Buy or Walmart or Amazon, anything like that. That's going to be October 10th, so 5 days from now. But they went live, and I'm going to pass it over to Joe to start with his whole experience. Tell us what time they went live, your approach to getting there, what and if you got anything, and how you feel about it all. Just give us your whole rundown,
Yeah,
Joe.
I mean, I think I woke up around 7 a.m. On the 26th. And before that, throughout the night, I left my PC on because I was basically monitoring the entire web page. I had plugins on my browser to make sure this is the least touched grass I've ever been with it. But I was monitoring every single element of is it direct.playstation or playstation.direct? I don't know. It's a weird URL.
I think it was direct.playstation.
Yeah. And I was basically, I think from what I can assume, I was one of the first in the queue because of that. And it would send notifications to my phone and everything. So yeah, it was really lame, but I got in, and then the worst thing to do when this happens is to go on Reddit and be and read up on, I don't know, just PlayStation forums and people being in an hour ahead in Belgium and shit and being oh yeah, it's all sold out. I couldn't get the anniversary, and I'm shit, I must have missed it. Fuck. But because they were an hour ahead, in the queue as well, and they obviously their PlayStation pre-orders went live an hour before, and I was I literally went on my phone. I refreshed the tab, even though it was already on my PC. So I had three fucking devices going at once for this thing, and it just pinged, and it was right there. It was by the console, and I was oh shit, it's still in.
The Pro Anniversary.
The Pro Anniversary was right. I was this can't be right. But I clicked through and everything. I went through and I got it. I put it to my basket, and I was expecting every click. I was expecting this item's sold out. This is gone.
Yep.
And I got it. I fucking got it. I was shit. And I was there
Wild.
scrambling for my my fucking credit card and stuff, trying to find it. And yeah, it was wild, dude. It was one of those things where it was I can't believe I just snagged that 12,500 units. I think it is
12,300.
12,300. Yeah. That is absolutely wild. And I got it, and I'm just I'm still. When I think about it, I'm did I really get something that rare? Wow.
Yeah, dude, it's super rare.
Yeah.
I mean, people have already turned around and resold it for $5,000 when they don't even have it yet.
Yeah. And it's one of those things where I was speaking to my colleague at work who buys Legos, resells Legos and stuff. He was you should keep that box and then buy a normal PS5 Pro and just fucking sell it in a box. And I'm oh, I should. That would be the smart thing. That would be such the smart thing to do.
I mean, I bet 1 year from now,
Yeah.
if you sold that in the box new, it would probably be worth more than $5,000.
Yeah. So it's What's the responsible thing here? But yep, I got it. I got the bundle. I got the Edge controller. I got the little case thing that comes with it. Yeah, I don't know. It's one of those things where until I get it and it comes through the door, I don't know what I'm gonna do with it technically, because I'm still. Let's be real here. Yeah.
There's two different angles. There's the how could I make the most money and be the most profitable angle, but truth be told, there's nothing dumb about opening it and enjoying it for yourself, because that is the purpose of the console. Yeah. The purpose is not to buy it for $1,000 and sell it for $6,000. The purpose is for someone to enjoy it.
Yep.
I mean, but I don't think there's a wrong answer. I mean, I don't know. I know whatever listeners we have would probably hate what I'm about to say, but like, I've never really been against scalpers.
Right.
And I know that's a hot take because everyone's like, scalpers are scum. Mm-hmm. But for me, it's just like, that's just the reality of how things work. And most of the time, scalpers are going through the effort of monitoring and being there at the moment to put forth the money and get things quickly. Like I'm not like, I understand that like somebody who buys 5 of something to sell at a profit and then little Johnny can't even have one to play it and enjoy it. That sucks. But I'm just like, I don't know. That's the reality of the situation. They're not doing anything illegal. I mean, you could say they're doing something wrong, but even I just don't even really subscribe to that too much. I'm just like, they had the money, they got it by fair means with the intention of making a profit. I don't know. People probably say I'm shitty, but I just don't care. Like, and the truth is, and like, I mean, you can take this however you want. I'm guessing people will think I'm shit for this too. But when the Xbox One and the PS4 came out, I bought 2 of each and resold the second one for $100 markup. Now, yeah, I was a scalper, but I mean, it was $100.
Yeah.
I wasn't like trying to sell it for $5,000 or something, so I don't know. I think, I admire the hustle. Get it,
Yeah. 100%. So. But you waited, right? Or you got it, you've pre-ordered it, but you're like still kind of on the edge. So your story was you were like pinging the website.
Yeah. And as soon as it went live in your country, you got in, you bought the PS5 Pro anniversary.
Yeah. I texted you. I was like, I got it, Bryan. I got it.
Yeah. Yeah. You were hyped, dude. You were like, and I was surprised too. Cause dude, I know several people at both Last Stand Media and Kind of Funny tried to get it. None of them got the anniversary, but Joe Smalley did.
Yeah.
So that's wild.
That's my resume. That'll be my pitch when hire me, Sacred Symbols.
Yeah.
Just I got the PS5 Pro.
Yeah, for that reason only. But so Joe lives in the UK. I'm in America. It went live. The pre-orders went live about 8 hours ish, I think, after Joe's went live, and I was at work all day, and I was like, "Do I try to get one?" I don't need it. I don't really have the money, but I want it. I could make the money somehow. And I'll admit there was like a 60% I want one and like a 40% I want to see if I can get one, because we all thought that, not just that we knew the anniversaries were going to sell out, but we thought that there was a decent chance the pros would sell out as well. So I'm at work and it's in my last, hour of work, and they go live and I'm on the website. I get in there and it immediately says, you're in a queue over an hour long to get a pro. And I immediately thought, well, I'm probably not going to get a pro if I got to wait over an hour. Yeah. And I kept my phone browser open that whole time. And I got in at over an hour, and of course the anniversary was sold out, but the PlayStation 5 Pro console and the anniversary controllers were available.
Yep.
And I went in and I added a PlayStation 5 Pro console normal to my cart and put in my credit card information and got it.
Nice.
And I was stoked, and I'm like, heck yeah, but now how do I pay for it? And as the day went on, hours passed by, they were still available on PlayStation 5 Direct. And then pretty soon there was no queue. You could just get in with no queue and buy one. And here we are. It's been over a week, getting close to 2 weeks since then. Mm-hmm. And they are still available right now on PlayStation Direct. So if you want a PlayStation 5 Pro, just go to PlayStation Direct and pre-order one. If you want to wait for a retailer, that goes live in 5 days. I'm sure. I mean, retailers might sell out quicker just because they have allocation.
Yeah.
But either way, it seems like if you want a Pro, you can just get one somehow, whether you go to a retailer or you go to PlayStation Direct. But yeah, so I have a Pro pre-ordered as well. So me and Joe are both getting Pros. Just not the gray anniversary one for me, like Joe. But yeah, so it's pretty exciting. And then immediately for me, because Joe, he's a single guy and he has disposable income, and he's like, all right, I got the money for this. Me, not so much. You know, I have very little disposable income, and I'm like, how am I going to pay for this PlayStation 5 Pro? I have about 6 weeks before it comes out. They'll probably charge it, I don't know, 4 or 5 weeks from now. It doesn't charge me. They put like a ping on your account to make sure you have the money, but they don't charge it yet. So the first thing I thought was, well, I am going to sell. I have a Wii U with Twilight Princess and Wind Waker, and I have a 3DS with Ocarina of Time 3D and Majora's Mask 3D. The only reason I have those two consoles is because of those 4 Zelda games that I love so much. And all those things are worth a lot of money. You know, the 3DS of the one I have, the 3DS XL, the new 3DS XL in mint condition with the original box is like $250-$300. Some of the Zelda, like Twilight Princess, is worth over $100. The Wii U is worth $150-$200. You know, so I was like, I think I'm just going to sell these because I never play them, but I always keep them because they're some of my favorite games of all time. And every several years, I want to play one. You know, maybe they'll bring it to the Switch too. You hope so, at least. And so I listed it on Facebook Marketplace, and it didn't take me long at all to have somebody wanted to come pick up my Wii U, 3DS, and 4 Zelda games for $450 cash. And I was like, damn, like this is okay. If I just sell this, that's pretty much my Pro, because once I sell my PS5 normal, that is the price of the Pro plus tax pretty much. So I was like, okay, I got my Pro figured out. But then I was at work all day and I was going back and forth, and I'm like, man, like Ocarina of Time, Twilight Princess, Majora's Mask, Wind Waker, they're some of my favorite games of all time. You know, Nintendo, you would like to think they would do common sense things that bring money, but like it's possible 10 years from now, there's still no way to play Twilight Princess and Wind Waker on the Switch. And I just couldn't. I was just having such a hard time. Like, do I sell it? Do I not sell it? And so all the way through work hours, like my whole 8-hour shift, I was like, by the end of my shift, I was like, you know, if I'm stressing out about this much, I probably don't really want to sell them. And the PlayStation 5 Pro is a console I already have. It just, the one I have isn't going to play in as good a fidelity or performance. But I also, being Bryan, I'm like, well, I'm still getting the Pro. Like, I am getting the Pro. Like, I'm not going to give up the Pro, but I don't want to sell my Nintendo shit. So I got home from work after canceling the sale of my Nintendo stuff. And I'm sitting there and I'm just like, what do I do to get the money for a PlayStation 5 Pro? Like, I can't really do a second job, because if I did, it would take up time with my wife and daughter. I already have a full-time job. It's 6 weeks away. What do I do? And I was just like searching things on my phone. And then I came across someone mentioning DoorDash. And then I was like, and I'm sure probably everyone knows, but if you don't know, DoorDash is like where you deliver people's food for them and they pay you. You can just go to a McDonald's, pick up their food, bring it to their house, and they pay you. And I started researching it a little bit, and I was like, well, how easy is this? And then I go download the app, and then the app's like, put in your name and information, take a picture of your driver's license, put in your bank account routing numbers so we can send you money. And I did all that. And within 5-10 minutes, I was registered and set up and ready to be a DoorDash driver. And I was like, am I really? I was like, am I really going to do this? Like, first of all, am I going to do it, period? And second of all, like, am I going to do it so I can get a PS5 Pro? You know, that's, you know, touch grass, Bryan, for real. I love when I tell some people at work I'm doing DoorDash, and they're just like, oh, that'll be really good extra money for Christmas in your family. And I'm like, sure will. For my Christmas, you know, I'm just kidding. So I signed up for it, and, you know, never used DoorDash before. Don't know much about, I mean, I've used DoorDash like once or twice to order food for myself, but didn't really know much about it. And so I hit the thing that says, you know, go ahead and dash now. And I think an order popped up and was like, hey, somebody from this pizza place wants pizza. And I was like, okay, I guess I'm doing this. And I went and tried it, and I drove. It was only like 2 miles away, picked up the pizza, delivered it to someone. And in 10 minutes, I had $5. And I was like, damn, man, that was kind of like, that's kind of an adrenaline rush a little bit. I kind of liked how that felt.
You like Sam Porter, Bryan Porter.
Yeah, and I just got done playing Death Stranding. So I'm like, okay, now I'm Sam Porter Bridges. Now I make deliveries. This is my life now. So I did that, and I was like, okay, I think I might actually use this to make some money. And then I had to go out of town. So all weekend I thought about it. And then I was like, well, let's see. When I get back home, I'll give it a try. So I got back home on Sunday and I booted it up again. And I got a bunch of orders and I made $43 Sunday night delivering stuff. And I was like, okay, I can do this. I was like, yeah, I think I can make some money to get the PlayStation 5 Pro. Now, obviously, you have to consider that you're using your gas, driving your own car. So yeah, basically this entire week, because of pre-ordering the PS5 Pro, I have been doing DoorDash. And, while I'm sure many would love to hear me say, Brian, they'd love to hear me say I'm an idiot and it sucks doing this and it's all this work for a PS5 Pro I don't need. But the truth is, it's a blast doing DoorDash. It's just fun. And then I make money as well. I'm going to get into that. I've had some bad experience, but for the most part, pretty good. But yeah, so I've been DoorDashing since Sunday and it is now Saturday morning and I've made $200 in 1 week. And all I do is from noon to 3. And from noon to 3, I'm not usually DoorDashing the entire time because sometimes I'm waiting for the order to come through. So it's 2 or 3 hours a day. So yeah, as on top of my full-time job, I've put in about 13 hours ish of extra work with DoorDash. Not actually 13 hours of like I've been doing DoorDash for 13 hours, but I think I've only worked around 8 or 9.
Right.
And yeah, I made about $200. So, and I've got 4 or 5 weeks till the Pro comes out. So, and all I need really is about $450 because I'm going to sell my PlayStation 5. Mm-hmm. So I will be getting a Pro definitely because of DoorDash. And it's fun. And now I'm also just like, I think I might just do DoorDash even once I buy the Pro.
I was gonna ask you that. Is it like lit a fire under your ass to
well, it has for a couple reasons. One, like it's just fun and I like the hustle of it. But two, for those of you that know me listening, like my hustle money, my free extra money for 5 years has been from podcasting. Mainly with my other podcast that's no longer up we no longer record anymore, Sacred Icon. But on Sacred Icon, I got used to having split between me and my co-host. We'd both get $150 to $250 a month from the podcast, and that was kind of my free money. But now I realized for podcasting, you only podcast once a week for 2 or 3 hours. You get to sit at home. So I get it's not the same thing, but like in 1 week. Where all I'm doing, remember guys, all I'm doing is 2 or 3 hours a day. I'm not like I'm morning to night DoorDashing, $200 in a week. So I can easily make what I made podcasting or way more if I want doing DoorDash. So that's been a lot of fun. I've had a lot of mostly good experiences, because basically all you do is you open up the app, you hit dash, a thing will pop up and it'll say somebody wants McDonald's 5 miles away. You go to McDonald's, you pick up their order, then it gives you a GPS to their either their house or their company. You go there, you set it at the door, you take a picture of it, and you press confirm, and it says, "Here's your money." That's pretty much it.
Yeah.
So most of the week it's been pretty good. The worst, and I'm learning a lot of lessons here because you get like people give you ratings. You get a rating on how often you accept an order because when an order comes up, you can deny it. If you're like, "Oh, this is a shitty order," you can deny it. But every time you deny it, it takes your acceptance down from 100%. And if you get below 70%, you're not going to get as many offers. So you want to keep it above 70. So there's like that. And there's like a rating for how quick you are. There's like 5 or 6 different ratings. And what I've realized took me about a week to realize is a couple things. One, I am no longer going to take orders that have me going out into the boonies because see, what's tempting because most orders that come up on the DoorDash app are for $4, $5, or $6.
Right.
And usually for those listening, they might be like, "Oh, that's not worth it." But usually it's like $4, $5, or $6, but it's like drive a mile or two, get McDonald's, drive a mile or two, drop it off. And it's like, okay, I can make $5, $6 in no time. And then you get another order and you do it again. And before you know it, in an hour, you've made 20 some bucks or whatever.
Yes.
Which, the average person doesn't make 20 some bucks an hour. So, but what would allure me is I would get an offer and the offer is for $11 or $12 and I would just hit the accept button right away. I was like, I don't even look at it. I'm just like, oh yeah, $12. Yep. And what that would end up being is like drive 3 miles to burger joint and then drive 8 miles out into the boonies with no cell phone reception down winding roads and deliver it. And then once you deliver it, you made the $12, but now you got to drive 8 miles back down the roads, not getting paid anything.
You end up in BT territory is what you're saying.
You're in BT territory. Yes, this all goes back to Death Stranding. And that's the thing, is you don't realize how much you're screwed, because not only are you wasting the gas and the time and the effort on your car, and then you drive all the way out there and you deliver it. And if you're able to deliver it and find it, I keep losing cell phone reception.
Right.
If you're able to find the place properly, well, then when you're out there, not only do you have to waste 8 miles driving back, not getting paid, but the app won't even give you new orders because you've left the hotspot. Because there's no... So then, it's a huge loss of time and money and effort. So I just at the point now where I'll take a hit on my acceptance offer. I am going to deny anything out in the boonies. It's not worth it to me. And especially where I really learned this was yesterday, because I had an order that was way out in the boonies and I got out there and I lost cell phone reception. And my GPS still worked because I had it going before I lost reception. But the GPS took me out to the middle of nowhere on a gravel road with no houses behind. And it said, "You've arrived at your location." And I'm like, what the heck? There's nothing around. I can't fix anything, call anybody, text anybody.
Yeah, you're out there.
I can't restart the GPS. I have no reception. So I started just driving around searching for houses nearby. And I managed to find a house that has the same address as and when I say it's same address, like just the number, basically. I don't know what road I was on. I was so confused. But the house number was 1679. And I found a house around where my GPS stopped that says 1679. So I delivered it there, and find out 20 minutes later when I get back in cell phone reception, I delivered it to the wrong house, and the guy never got his food.
It's wild that the person didn't say. Like they were like, yeah, it's mine.
Well, the house I delivered it to, a woman came to the door and she said it was for her son. And she took the food and she seemed genuine. And
that's so bad.
And
that's so bad.
Yeah. So then I get back and it's like I didn't get my food, so the guy was mad.
Yeah.
And then I got a hit on my account for not delivering the food. And on one hand, I don't blame that I got a hit on my account. Like I should get a hit on my account. Like I didn't do my job properly, but like it kind of feels like on my end, like what could I have done differently? Because all I could have done differently maybe is once I got to the gravel road and didn't know where to go, I could have drove 10 minutes back out of into my cell phone reception and then called. But then you get into the point of like, it's going to be late for the person. Their food might be colder. You might still not figure it out. And I thought I had the right place because I'm like, I don't know how this works. I probably should know. But like my assumption is you can't have two houses with the same number within a mile or two of each other. I would assume not. So I thought that the fact that I arrived at the right number was like, I probably had it. But so I got a hit on my account, which sucks. And, you never like I talked to the guy who I was supposed to deliver to and he was kind, but he was mad. And it just sucked to know that I made his day shitty.
Right.
So that sucked. But so one thing I'm going to do is not do the boonie orders anymore. And then the other thing I learned is, and this is so genius, dude. Like I just admire the company of DoorDash because they're so smart. There's two methods of earning money on DoorDash when you start up. You can go earn by offer or earn by hourly wage. And I think most people would probably think this. When I started the app, I'm like, well, I want to earn by hourly wage because what an hourly wage does is you get money when you're out spending your time no matter what.
Yeah.
Where earn by offer is you only get the money from the offer, and any time you spend outside of the offer, you don't make any money. So I was doing for days, I was doing earn by hour. And basically what earn by hour does is it says, we're going to pay you $11 an hour. And if somebody tips you, you get to keep that too. So I thought, oh yeah, heck yeah. That sounds great. I'll get $11 an hour. I'll probably get a few dollars here, a few dollars there for a tip. I'll probably get 20 some bucks an hour. Well, then I learned what they do. Basically, they take all the shittiest customers that don't tip at all, and they put them exclusively in the earn by hour. So what I was basically doing was driving around for an hour, getting like little $2, $3 orders with no tips.
Yeah.
And then getting paid by the hour. And I wasn't making as much money. So I switched over to earn by offer. And now everything I deliver is with a tip. Yeah. And it's making better money. So about $200 in the first week. I got to get to $450 for the PlayStation 5 Pro, but I actually need to earn a little bit more because I want to buy Silent Hill 2 and I want to buy Dragon Age, the Veilguard, which comes out in 30 days or 25 days. So I really need to earn like $600, which is not really hard to do.
Right.
It's just it's gonna be a few weeks of me door dashing, and like I said, this isn't taking any time away from my family, from my job, from church. It's simply taking away time from when I would play video games.
Yeah, it's in that downtime, right? So you do it basically on the same hours that we normally record in the weekdays, from 12 till 3, right? So so it's perfect. What does Erica think about it though? What's she thinking?
Well, that's the surprising thing is, and of course, you know, kind of me and Joe and a couple other guys, Darren and Wes, we have this little group chat. And we like to give each other shit. So it's mostly just giving each other shit. But I remember one thing that I think it was Darren said, maybe Wes and Darren said it. I think they said something like, you know, my wife would be bewildered if I did a second job to buy a PlayStation 5 Pro. Okay. And I get that. I actually do get that, because I can see a wife being like, why would you waste time for doing another job, not to, you know, put in savings or a college fund or pay bills, but for a freaking PlayStation 5 Pro. But honestly, dude, my wife is pretty excited about it. She thinks it's cool. She thinks it's fun. She likes that I'm doing it. She encourages it. She talks to me about it. She seemed really kind of like hyped that I was doing it. So, and I think she also, like, her angle is less like, oh, you're doing a second job to buy yourself a PS5 Pro. Her angle is more, you're spending your time, your free time, making money to pay for something you want, so it doesn't financially burden us. So she's all for it. She's very cool about it. And like I said, I don't run out and do it while I should be with family.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a lot of fun. I'm really enjoying it. And I'll be able to get the PlayStation 5 Pro. And I was kind of hoping Silent Hill 2, like I wasn't hoping Silent Hill 2 would suck, but I was like, if it sucks, I don't have to spend $70 on it. But we'll talk about that. We'll get to that. But yeah, so I'm excited for the Pro. Unless you want to share more of a story from your story, Joe, I got an article about the games that we already know are coming that are enhanced we can talk about. Do you have anything more you want to say about your experience?
I mean, my story is not really that cool compared to yours. It's just that I got like the crazy edition.
I think yours is cooler because you got the anniversary.
You're like hustling, you know what I'm saying? Like that's respectable in my opinion anyway. Don't care.
I'm glad you feel that way.
I don't care what Darren says. I think this is respectable. I gotta say. So yeah. I think it's sick. But yeah, I know what you mean by the one in Silent Hill to kind of be dookie so you didn't spend the money.
Hey dude, I gotta tell you guys, like, the vibe, the door dashing vibe, to me personally is bliss. I'm gonna tell you how my morning went this morning.
Right.
I got up and I didn't get up to DoorDash. I just woke up. I go to work early, so I wake up early naturally.
Right.
I got up at 5 o'clock, took a shower, got some fresh clothes on, opened the DoorDash app. I went out. Dude, I'm driving through town and it's dark and there's like no cars out. And I'm running dashes while listening to Sacred Symbols in my earbud. And it's just a vibe, bro. Just driving casually, making money, and listening to Sacred Symbols talk about the PS5 Pro. And I'm like, yep, I'm out here hustling to get one. Like, it's just, it was fun. I just love it.
You're kind of inspiring me to give it a go, dude, because around here, we're always in service, you know, like there's no boonies around here. And I won't be going that far out to lose service. So,
I mean, if you found it enjoyable at all, then I would definitely encourage you to do it. Like,
I mean, I've never done anything like that, but yeah.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, there's really no negative because, like, you make your own hours and time. Like, you could do one order and be like, oh, this shit sucks, and just not do it anymore.
Yeah. I mean, I might give it a go one day. Yeah, that sounds cool.
Yeah,
anyway, let's get on to the news.
Okay, yeah. So let's talk about, you know, like we said, you know, the PS5 Pro wasn't shown off in a way that made it too enticing, heavy price, and just kind of showing a few games. Since then, Digital Foundry has done some videos that really paint like a better perspective. As me, someone who's a big Final Fantasy VII fan, the amount of publications and people with hands-on previews who have said, of all the things that stand out about this Pro, man, does Rebirth look like a whole new game. It's cool to hear because that's going to be like the first thing I want to play on it for sure. But this comes from tweaktown.com, someone I don't think we've referenced before. They get a list of the 60 plus PlayStation 5 games that are already announced to be enhanced by the PlayStation 5 Pro. I'll just go through these quickly, give you guys an idea of games that you could see yourself, you know, having a better experience playing with the Pro. I mean, me and Joe are going to be doing that. So here we go. Alan Wake 2, Apex Legends, Assassin's Creed Shadows, Cyube VR, don't know what that is. Dead Rising Deluxe Remaster that Joe just got through. Demon Souls, Diablo 4 and its expansion, Dragon Age the Veilguard, Dragon's Dogma 2, Dynasty Warriors Origins, College Football 25, FC 25, Madden 25, Empire of the Ants, Enlisted, F1 24, Final Fantasy 7 Rebirth, Fortnite, Gran Turismo 7, Hogwarts Legacy, Horizon Forbidden West, and Horizon Zero Dawn Remastered, Kayak VR Mirage, Lies of P, Like a Dragon, Pirate Yakuza in Hawaii, Marvel Rivals, Spider-Man 2, Spider-Man Miles Morales, Spider-Man Remastered, Wolverine, Metal Gear Solid, Delta Snake Eater. Heck yeah, Joe, we're going to have the best experience with that game. Mortal Kombat 1, My Little Universe, Naraka Blade Point, No Man's Sky, Outbreak, Shades of Horror, Chromatic Split, Professional Baseball Spirits 2024 to 2025, Ratchet and Clank, Rift Apart, Redacted. Oh, that's interesting. So I'm guessing that's not a game, but something that's redacted.
No, I think that's a game. I think Redacted's a game.
Oh, really?
Hang on, let me.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's a survival game. It's a survival game, yeah.
Okay. Resident Evil 4 Remake, Resident Evil Village, Retrieval, Rise of the Ronin, Rogue Flight, Spine, This Is Gun Flu, Star Wars Jedi Survivor, Star Wars Outlaws, Stellar Blade, Test Drive Unlimited Solar Crown, The Callisto Protocol, The Crew Motorfest, The First Descendant, The Last of Us Part 1 and Part 2 Remastered, The Midnight Town Stories, Adam's Diary, Towers of Agasba, Unreal Kingdoms, Until Dawn, War Thunder, Warframe, and World of Warship Legends. So that's 62 games right off the bat. They've also said that like a bunch of PS4 games backwards compatibility wise are going to be boosted. And from my experience with the PS4 Pro, as the months and years go on, there's going to be a lot of games that have some level of tweak or addition for people with the Pro. There was very good support for the PS4 Pro. So yeah, Joe, what do you think, whether it be you want to revisit a game to see the Pro enhancements or a new game that's going to come out after you have the Pro? What are you kind of excited to see first on the Pro?
Yeah, I mean, what's already exciting to me is that this has a stronger lineup of sort of features than even like, you know, the PSVR 2 had. So
for sure.
It's nice to come out strong in this regard, and then obviously get more added later down the line. But yeah, it's interesting because there's things like Dead Rising Deluxe Remaster, which as someone who's just played that on the PS5, it's like I can't really see how much that's going to benefit from a PS5 Pro, just simply because its art style and the way it's designed is just not the most graphical. It doesn't care about graphics. It's a sandbox zombie murderer game, and it's brilliant for it. But then there's also things like Demon Souls, which is like one of the most gorgeous video games, in my opinion, of all time, and it, on the PS5 base, rivals PC games in terms of how it looks. And I've been wanting to go back and play that and get the platinum on that game for a long time now. Maybe
do it on the Pro.
Yeah, do a new playthrough kind of thing and get all the items and everything. Yeah, dude. But then there's also like weird ones like Enlisted, which I played, which are like, you know, World War II like sort of Chinese games that just don't look good anyway. But then there's also Gran Turismo. So it basically just looks like it's catering for a lot. I mean, there's things like Wolverine on there that, you know, that...
Hey, when you get around to playing Rebirth, you're going to have a lot better experience. Because, dude, it was pretty well known when Rebirth came out. It was either play on fidelity mode, right, which obviously you had 30 frames, or play on performance and have really soft kind of whack visual. Like the graphics on performance and Rebirth were very soft and smudgy.
Yeah. But now
you'll have none of that.
Yeah. So. Yeah, that's brilliant. But I think the thing I'm most excited for is like the Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater, because well, I mean, what they've shown in terms of gameplay already looks absolutely gorgeous on the Unreal Engine 5. Like, oh my god, like the mud like goes on his clothes, and then it can dry, and then it doesn't fall off anymore and stuff, and it's all like physics based and everything. It's so cool. Yeah, I mean, all of this to me looks dope. It's a shame I've just done Last of Us Part 1, because I would like to experience that on the PS5 Pro. But I think since the Last of Us Part 2 remastered's on there, I'm excited to try that on the Pro, because I have that.
Me too. I'll do that one too.
Yeah. Dude, I think this looks dope. It's a strong launch lineup for all the enhanced titles. No Man's Sky, I've still got to get around to playing that. Yeah, dude. I mean, Horizon Zero Dawn Remaster, Horizon Forbidden West, that game is already drop dead gorgeous.
I know.
So what is it going to look like with like what did you call it? Pisser or PSSR?
That's what everyone's calling it. Yeah, because the AI upscaling in the PlayStation 5 Pro is called the PSSR, but it's just easier to say pisser.
Yeah.
So
yeah. But yeah, I cannot complain about this. I really can't.
Yeah, I think for me, the first game that I want to try out on the Pro is it's definitely Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, because that's just such a great candidate for that. But I would wager the first game I guess I'll play on the Pro is Dragon Age: The Veilguard, because I will be just over a week I'll be just over a week into playing it already when the Pro will come to my house. So I guess I'll have to subscribe to PS Plus to do a cloud save transfer, because I'll have to switch consoles like in the middle of my playthrough.
I would like to try as well is Resident Evil 4, because on the base PS5, even on performance mode, there was an element of dropped frames. You know, when you return to the village like third way through the game and it was raining and the watchtower was blown up and it was kind of like, it was dark, it was the night setting.
Yeah.
When it was raining a lot and there was fire and stuff, I could tell there was some drop frames in there. So it would be nice to see both the graphical enhancements on the PS5 Pro and also the frame rate for that. So I might give that a go again, even though I've already planned it. I just love that game. That game is so fire.
That game is just a game you could replay any month, really.
Yep.
I'm hoping. It's kind of wild that Final Fantasy 16 hasn't been mentioned in here, because Final Fantasy 16 was another game that had noticeable problems. But it would be nice if it's one of those deals where you play 16 on a Pro and it's just a little bit better anyways, just because it recognizes the hardware is better.
Yeah.
I mean, because I remember when I got my Xbox One X back in the day, and you just booted up Witcher 3 and it was in 60 frames. Like, it had no patch.
Yeah.
It was just the console was so much more powerful because it was uncapped frame rate.
It's one of those things though where like Xbox has a better structure in that regard though, hasn't it? Like, it's always, even if a game hasn't been patched, games always seem to benefit from those upscales and that hardware. Whereas, I mean, even like, you play PS4 games on the PS5, not all of them are like gonna come up. I think of like Metal Gear Solid 5, The Phantom Pain, where it's like, it still is amazing because of the technical work that was done for the Fox engine, but that game doesn't look any better on the PS5 as opposed to like the PS4 Pro. I
think Microsoft does a lot better job of making improvements to your library and games for free.
Yes. Yeah.
Because if Sony does it, you're getting charged. It might only be $10, but like if Sony does anything beneficial for you, you're probably getting charged.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. But this is dope. So, I love it.
Yeah. All right. Let's go into what I found so surprising is Silent Hill 2 reviews. So for those of you that haven't really been following or don't know, like, Silent Hill 2 is a Konami remake done by Bloober Team that is going to be exclusive to the PS5 for a year. And as it's been shown off for the past year or so, it's mostly been met with mixed reception from everyone going, this remake doesn't look that great. It doesn't look that great visually. It doesn't they're not really like making me feel like the vibes of the original Silent Hill 2. Bloober Team, they're not bad, but like, I don't know if they can be trusted with a product of this scale.
Yeah, I was in that camp. Yeah.
And as we've gotten to the last couple months, we've started to see some like kind of trailers and gameplay that kind of started to look kind of good. And people are going, wait a minute, is this going to work? And I think everyone's just kind of like, when these reviews come out, it's going to be hard to believe if they get something special here. I mean, it's probably going to be like a 70 something Metacritic or whatnot. But Silent Hill 2 is going to be out on the 8th for everyone. If you want to pay extra and get the early access, which sucks, that'll be the 6th. So actually tomorrow you can play. We're recording this on the 5th. You can play tomorrow if you pay for the extra early access. I'm not doing that. I'm going to buy the standard and play it on Tuesday. But yeah, so before we get into the reviews, actually, I'll click the Metacritic here. So just to paint a picture of how well Silent Hill 2 Remake is being received, it is currently a 87 on Metacritic based on 56 critic reviews. So pretty high for this remake that people had low expectations for. And we're going to go touch on some verdicts from a couple different reviews. First, this comes from pushsquare.com. The transformation of the game's visuals from PS2 to PS5 is another highlight. It doesn't quite compare to top-of-the-line AAA titles, but to see how Bloober Team has faithfully recreated all of Silent Hill 2's iconic locations, cutscenes, and moments for the current generation is impressive in itself. With a new soundtrack from returning composer Akira Yamaoka, yeah. It's a sensual delight from both a graphical and auditory perspective. The only proper disappointment is some slight visual bugs in the thick fog of Silent Hill, where you can sometimes see the outlines of buildings poking through. It looks a little unnatural, particularly when it's difficult to see anything else beyond 5 feet in front of you. There's also a slight fuzziness to character faces when analyzed up close, and during cutscenes, which looks a little strange. You get used to it, but it can be distracting from time to time. Conclusion: Bloober Team has faithfully and respectfully recreated one of survival horror genre's greatest all-time greats, modernizing Silent Hill 2 in all the right ways. So much of what made the Konami classic a masterpiece in 2001 remains in this PS5 remake 23 years later, with the same unforgettable story, satisfying exploration, and weighty combat. There were concerns in the lead up to release, but Silent Hill 2 speaks for itself, a spectacular experience that once again represents survival horror at its best. So a 9 out of 10 from Push Square. Glowing words. Next review is from Eurogamer. I'll be honest, I wasn't sure I ever wanted a remake of one of my all-time favorite games. I didn't think it was necessary any more than I thought Bloober had the ability to take Silent Hill 2's themes and make them work in a modern game without somehow damaging its DNA or fumbling somewhere. Never have I been so pleased to be so wrong about something. It doesn't matter if you've never played Silent Hill 2 before. It also doesn't matter if you have. Silent Hill 2 Remake's heady blend of old and new delivers the best horror I've played for years, and I suspect that will hold true even for those meeting James for the first time. A little light padding and some minor grumbling about the combat aside, there's nothing, not a single thing, I wish Bloober had done differently. How it looks, how it sounds, how it plays, how it iterates and modernizes whilst honoring its cherished source material. Silent Hill 2 Remake is as close to perfect as I could have ever hoped, and my hopes were high, my friend. 5 out of 5 stars.
Damn.
Very glowing words. And then finally, last review we'll touch on is from GameSpot. The lo-fi PS2 aesthetic that the game naturally enjoyed back then is today a nostalgic North Star for indie devs who grew up on games like Konami's classic. Such art direction does allow for a quality that's hard to define and perhaps pound for pound more interesting than a typical AAA look. But the remake doesn't lose anything for having better facial animation, stronger voice acting, and a more richly detailed world. These attributes only make the game's famous and oft-studied final moments affect me greatly, despite knowing what happens beforehand. The two games exist side by side for being outstanding in many of the same ways, just for sometimes different reasons. The original Silent Hill 2 is one of the most beloved, culturally significant, and overall best horror games ever made. It appeared to be the case that trying to recapture the magic of the game was to misjudge how impactful its time and place were, and how its limitations helped shape it for the better. Any studio advancing on such a project should have had a Sisyphean task ahead of them, forever chasing its essence like a moth with a hole in your net. However, by staying true to the original game in extremely important ways and taking calculated risks born from an understanding of the source material, all while being supported further by some of the game's original brain trust, Bloober Team has done what was reasonably considered near impossible. The remake of Silent Hill 2 is a restless dream come true. 9 out of 10. That's 3 reviews, Joe. We got a 9 from Push Square, a 9 from GameSpot, and a 10 from Eurogamer, with an 87 Metacritic on Silent Hill, for Silent Hill 2 overall. Just across the board, all the reviews have been great. It looks astounding. Obviously, I loved Resident Evil 4 Remake, and to have another kind of quality game like that in a remake coming out. I'm in day one, Tuesday next week. Me and my wife are going to play it together. I cannot wait to play this game. I'm so happy and surprised. I hope Bloober Team can now ascend to the AAA level and follow up with either another remake or their own original property that's this good. I feel so happy for the team because so many doubted them, including me. What are your thoughts, Joe, on these reviews, on the reception of the game? Are you going to buy it? When will you buy it? I'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, I mean, I've been Bloober's probably not hater, I would say, but like someone who's doubted their skill and talent when it comes to making horror games, because while they make perfectly serviceable, I would say 6 and 7 out of 10s with like the Blair Witch, and I think they did Layers of Fear as well, I think, if I remember correctly.
Layers of Fear. They did the Medium, which was big when the Xbox Series X was coming out.
Yeah, the Medium, which was, as far as I'm aware, I never played that one, but it was like kind of just more of a tech demo in many ways. Like,
I think it came in very 7 out of 10. Kind of, it's all right.
It just didn't hit right. Which had really cool ideas though, where you could switch between different. Like, it kind of had a Silent Hill vibe about it in many ways, where it was like, you know, the whole thing of like the fog coming in and, you know, that taking over the world and stuff, and, you know, the air raid sirens going off and stuff. But yeah, I was always quite a doubter, I would say, for their skill, and never quite hit. I mean, I turned Blair Witch off like a third in because I was bored. It was a walking simulator. It was just not good. And this seems to be, like you allude to, the game that might make them enlightened, bring them to the next phase of AAA, development. Because this is AAA, at this point. They're working with Konami, and it's got the budget that seemingly like things like Metal Gear Solid Delta has in terms of what I'm seeing from the presentational side of things. Graphically, it looks incredible, really authentic. And I'm just happy that they have done good on one of my favorite games of all time, and also just done good on their namesake, because everyone's been kind of looking at them kind of like, Bloober, are you sure you like Konami? Do you want Bloober to touch that? Like, really? And Konami clearly had confidence in them, rightfully so. We should have in many ways, but obviously we would be excused for their past due to their past experiences and their past endeavors. But yeah, this is dope. It's one of those things where, like, the only reason I'm not picking it up is simply because, like, I've got other things on the go, and I kind of want to slow down on buying new games, because it took me a while to get through Astro Bot, which was only a 10-hour game, and now I'm still trying to platinum Dead Rising, and I'm still trying to get, like, the Cyberpunk playthrough started. So
to your credit, if you platinumed Astro Bot, I think you probably spent closer to 20 hours. You had to have.
Yeah, maybe, yeah. But absolutely incredible to see. I'm excited. Because this is cool, because it was always interesting to see kind of how the survival horror genre was going to kick back up. Like we had the Dead Space remake, we had the Resident Evil 4 remake, which were kind of the sort of figureheads and the prize darlings of that sort of renaissance of AAA survival games coming back, But then you also had like misses with like the Callisto Protocol, and I was worried this was going to go the same way, where it was like, it's good, it's all right, but it's kind of like it's not in the right hands, and it seems to be in the right hands, which is great. And in many ways, I know it's like all about marketing and sales, and they're doing the same thing with Metal Gear Solid Delta. Instead of starting from the start, they're starting with the third game, or technically the fifth game. But it would have been nice for them to start with one, Silent Hill 1, and then just build up, because now how do you go back, It's kind of weird, because
it's kind of like how they started with Resident Evil 2 remake, right?
Yeah,
I know 1 technically had been remade already, but at that point it was well over a decade.
Yeah.
But I think you just kind of like, if you want to stand any chance at rebuilding the audience and garnering appreciation for this older title, you want to start with the one that's the most beloved. Yeah. And to my understanding, Silent Hill 2 doesn't require a lick of Silent Hill 1 knowledge.
No, it doesn't know.
So
it's one of those things where, like, the only thing I'm worried about with this game, from like looking at the gameplay and stuff, and the mentioning in these reviews, is that the gameplay is not as refined as Resident Evil 4 and stuff. And I can get behind that, because Silent Hill was never about necessarily its gameplay. I mean, it was good at the time, but it was always quite like wooden in many ways. I don't know how to describe it.
It was about the atmosphere.
It was about
right?
the atmosphere and the narrative going on, and the unique style of the Japanese horror that they put forth. And I think it's dope. I think it's really dope. I'm excited to pick it up eventually. I don't think I'll pick it up day one though, but yeah, very excited.
When do you think if you had to guess, you think you'll pick it up this year, next year, wait for a sale?
So if I don't get a release date on Metal Gear Solid Delta, and that's not this year, I'll probably pick it up after I beat Cyberpunk.
Okay.
So it's October now. Yeah, maybe November, maybe something like that. I don't know. I'm
thinking for you like December, January.
Yeah, let's be realistic.
Because you got all of Cyberpunk to go back through. You're gonna min max that shit. You're gonna play Phantom Liberty.
Yeah.
So
fair enough.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So game looks great. I'll definitely, our next recording, I'll have something to say about it, because I'll been playing it by then. Interested to experience it. I know very little about Silent Hill 2. I've never even touched a Silent Hill game before, and Erica loves horror, and it'll be a lot of fun. It's just the trifecta, man. Resident Evil 4, Dead Space, and Silent Hill 2 remake.
Yeah,
and they're all goated.
Yeah,
we're living in the good timeline.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, 2 of those are on my greatest games of all time. Dead Space and Silent Hill 2. So yeah, amazing.
That's awesome, dude. All right, let's get into our last article. This actually comes from a website called Automaton Media, but I'm reading some excerpts off the Resetera thread. Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater's difficulty level will change depending on whether you choose the new third person or original fixed perspective. I don't think I fully realized that we were going to have these two perspectives until I read this, which is kind of interesting. So I'll read this, and then I got a question for Joe, and then I'll
Yep.
I'll get Joe's take on it. This is Joe's thing, really, which I'm buying this day one for sure. Now that I'm a Konami, or not a Konami, no, a Kojima fan, Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eaters producer Noriaki Okamura and creative producer Yuji Kurakato recently talked about the upcoming game and how it improves upon the original in an interview with Famitsu. Apart from the expected graphical updates, new improvements are being made, one of which is the new third-person perspective dubbed New Style. New Style is similar to the fully rotatable third-person camera introduced in Metal Gear Solid 3 Substance, the expanded release of the original 2004 title. With it, players can easily take note of their surroundings and move in their desired direction. While Substance's rotatable third-person camera provided more depth perception and awareness, shooting while using this mode was like trying to hit a bullseye with a shotgun. To fire accurate shots, players had to switch to the first-person mode, which tended to feel clunky because of how Snake stood in place. Players can choose between New Style and Legacy Style while playing Metal Gear Solid, but cannot switch between the two during gameplay. While a feature to switch between perspective styles was planned, Kurakato stated that they had to scrap it since New Style made the old game too easy. Based on Kurakato's statement, it seems the players will have the option to choose between New Style and Legacy Style at the start of the game. Legacy Style playthroughs will be much closer to the original game's difficulty, while playthroughs using the New Style are being adjusted accordingly. So, let me give you my perception and my question, and then you take it away, Joe.
Yep.
So, my perception was that when Metal Gear Solid 3 first came out, you had this style that was kind of top down, but also behind the character.
Yep.
And then you had this re-release, which was Substance, that gave you more of a typical third-person view.
Yeah.
And so I'm not surprised that both those options are there, but my understanding is this New Style is not necessarily going to be the Substance style. It's going to be a whole new style entirely that's kind of in the vein of Substance. So really you're going to have the original and the New Style. And then if you like Substance, you're getting it with the New Style, but really the exact Substance style isn't there.
Yep.
Is that correct?
Yes. So basically what they are doing is, so Metal Gear Solid, this is the thing about Kojima. He always learned from his past mistakes when he was playing, making the games. So like, from Metal Gear Solid 1 to Metal Gear Solid 2, and then Metal Gear Solid 2, like things like the swimming in it was in third person, and then when he came out with Metal Gear Solid 3, he made the swimming first person, right, in all versions. And then the same with Metal Gear Solid 3. When he made Metal Gear Solid 3, he started with the top-down perspective, so that was Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater. When Subsistence came out, Metal Gear Solid 3 Subsistence, which was like a re-release or whatever, with extra
I think I
features
said that wrong, by the way. Yeah,
you
go ahead.
said Substance. It's okay. It's whatever. That Substance, I think, is actually the Metal Gear Solid 2 re-release. It's weird. I don't know. It's all over the place. Metal Gear Solid 3 Subsistence, when that came out, yes, he put the camera behind you and made a third-person view mode. But for the most part, the controls and the way it played and the game and the difficulty, unlike this, was the same. You know, it was just like a polished version of it, because Metal Gear Solid 1 and 2, when you play those games, you'll realize very quickly that what your greatest friend, especially in Metal Gear Solid 1, is not what you see necessarily in front of you on screen, but you're constantly peering at the minimap, the Soliton radar, because that shows you, like, because obviously the limited view from the top in terms of the area that you have to use the map as kind of your eyes in front of you and around you. And the same goes for Metal Gear Solid 2, but because Metal Gear Solid 3 was set in the 50s, in the Cold War, obviously you didn't have the world wouldn't make sense to have a radar, right, to be in your top left screen, because they didn't have the technology. So what he did is he ended up still keeping the top-down perspective in the original release, but then when he came back, he was like, hang on, because of these areas are so wide and because they're so detailed, we're not really utilizing and giving the players enough of a sort of feel for the environment, and it's too hard on them in many ways. It plays well, even if you go back and play it, but it's challenging, right? It's fundamentally not as great of a design when it's not in those sort of enclosed spaces like in Metal Gear Solid 2 and 1. And what seems to be happening here from Konami with this remake is that they are taking the style of the Subsistence camera angle, but what they are doing is they're applying a sheen and a polish over it that is similar in line with Metal Gear Solid 4 and 5, because even in the original Metal Gear Solid 3 Subsistence, when you went first person to aim for like precision shots with your pistol or machine gun or whatever, the first thing you would realize is you can't move. Snake was like kind of cemented into the ground, and if you wanted to, snap off quick shots in combat or whatever, you would have to stand there like a moron and get shot while trying to hit the shot, And this seems like it's taking a lot more notes from Metal Gear Solid 4 and 5, where even though you're in first person, you can strafe, you can move, you have the ability to roll out of it, etc., etc. And this is just many of the sort of improvements they are making to the controllability side of it, because, I mean, they spoke about it recently where originally they were just going to do the graphics and make it polished and look awesome and be a remake in that way. But then once they started remaking it in that way, they started to realize quickly that maybe like they need to start updating the controls as well, because it just doesn't feel, it feels too archaic still, even with the modern graphics. So this is weird, because this remake for Konami and that team is very much like an experimental tester. And from what I can see right now is that not only are they nailing pretty much everything about what we love about Snake Eater, but they're also learning how to improve their like sort of designs and their production flow states in their in their pipelines in the future, that if we do get a Metal Gear Solid 1 remake or a Metal Gear Solid 2 remake, they're much more equipped for that. Because I feel like, looking at this, not to tangent, is I'm seeing a game that when they started doing this, they were like, this is probably the best one to remake because it's at the start of the timeline, and it's also the easiest to translate, right? Because it's still got an element of modernity to it. But then but then they probably went, Metal Gear Solid 1, that's hard. And they've actually come out and said that recently. They've said Metal Gear Solid 1 is going to be really hard, like much harder to remake than this, because it's not going to translate as well. So I think this is a really good starting off point, even though I would have, if they could, preferred to start with Metal Gear Solid 1 for the sake of the releases. But I think this is a really, really dope start. And I think this new style, the fact that they're putting in like a modified difficulty mode when you pick the new style, because ultimately you have more functionality. So they have to kind of balance that, because if you can control very similar to Metal Gear Solid 4 and 5, it's clearly going to be harder than if, you played it back in the day. So yeah, but I think this is dope.
So I as a new person, I think I'll probably play in the new style. How do you feel about that? Do you feel like I'll be getting a good experience, or do you feel like
I think that's the best way?
You should play the other way?
No. I think that's the best way, because even now when I play Metal Gear Solid 3 and I go back to it, I don't play Snake Eater. I play Subsistence because it's the best version, and that has the third person tradition, like modern style over the legacy style. So I think that's the way, dude. Honestly, I think you could try playing the legacy style, and I think you probably would enjoy it for like this quaint, novel design style that was of the 2000s and the 90s. But I think if you play the new style first, or even if you play the new style after, you'll quickly go, yeah, dude, like no wonder this is like kind of the way Sony does all their games now. And also a lot of studios do third person over the shoulder, because it's just the best form of controllability. So
yeah, it's kind of crazy, Joe. Like, it's weird that I'm starting to, and it's like, you need to check yourself. I'm starting to get this vibe that like Konami's dropping some fire, and it's like unexpected. Silent Hill 2, one of the greatest horror remakes, and everything we've been seeing lately on Metal Gear Solid 3 Delta is looking fire. Are they going to go 2 for 2 here? And if they do, what is the future of Konami? Are they going to do more remakes that are also as fire? Are they going to try to do something stupid and be like, oh, here's Metal Gear 6 without Kojima?
I think right now they're still dipping their toes in. They're assessing the industry in terms of what critics want, what the consensus want. They want to see sales. I don't think, like, there's part of me that still believes they're not fully in. Like they're not like, yeah, we're gonna bring it back to the 90s and like restart our studios and everything.
Well,
like,
there's no way they're greenlighting $150 million project.
No. But I think what they're doing now, I would say, is smart. I think it's smart. I think it's nice, because also if you read anything about how Konami works and how these remakes are coming along, I think there's an element of like, if you're informed, you can clearly tell they are doing what I've just said. They are testing the waters, and then that gives you a confident gauge how to approach these remakes. So yeah. I'm still waiting to see if I really don't want them to continue the Metal Gear series. I really don't.
Yeah.
Because
it seems like even Kojima kind of shouldn't have continued with 5, from what I've heard.
Dude, like, he wanted out of that series since Metal Gear Solid fucking 3, dude. I think the writing's on the wall with Metal Gear Solid 2, because every game he made after from Metal Gear Solid onwards, he ended the game with like this positive, hopeful message of like future generations, like thinking for themselves, being individual for the sake of the collective, and all this stuff. And he just wanted out, dude. He wanted out every single time, but Konami was like, no, one more. And that's why he went back with Metal Gear Solid 3, because he didn't have necessarily ideas on how he could take the chronology forward after Metal Gear Solid 2. And then with Metal Gear Solid 4, he was like, no, that's it for the timeline. We're done. Like, that's the end of the modern timeline. So, yeah, I think it's cool. I think this is all cool, but just don't do any more in the timeline. Just stop, please.
Totally. You already did Metal Gear Survive. You already heard us enough.
Yeah, we don't need it.
Yeah. All right, Joe. I never asked you if you had a special topic, but I have one myself if you don't.
Well, didn't I do mine last week?
I think you did.
Yeah. Go on, hit me with it.
I'm going to surprise you with my special topic. I'm probably going to surprise people listening because what I want to talk about is technically not PlayStation related.
Oh, wow.
But man, I bet we got good things to say. So we'll talk about this special topic and then we'll go into what we've been playing and we'll get out of here.
Yeah.
But oh man, Joe, you're going to have such a smile on your face. You know what my special topic is? You ready for this, Joe?
No.
It's a little game called Starfield.
Oh, yeah, boy.
Starfield.
Hell yeah, can't wait.
Obviously, Starfield's not a PlayStation game, though it's probably going to be within a couple years.
Yep.
But I just, Joe and I, since this game has come out, we have just been utterly fascinated with it. And my fascination has only grown in the past week as the first major expansion for the game released, Shattered Space.
Mm.
And for those of you who don't know, Shattered Space is basically... Starfield is this game where you're constantly planet hopping to different planets in your ship.
Yep.
And your typical Bethesda formula is, you're on one place, one continent, and you travel all over and you run into new stuff and all kinds of things happen. But then you get to Starfield and everything's segregated by all these planets.
Right.
So for Shattered Space, they wanted to go back to their origins, and this whole entire expansion takes place on one planet that's intently crafted, handcrafted, and the whole entire expansion takes place on that planet. You don't leave, you don't get in your ship. It's all there. It's all cultivated for you. And, many people, including myself, liked Starfield from day one. But there was improvements that people wanted to see, issues they had. And there's been upgrades over the years, like bringing it to 60 frames, giving like options for increasing your inventory load. And they brought a buggy to the game so you don't have to walk on every planet.
Yep.
But a lot of people thought like Shattered Space might be this big moment where they turn the game around. It's kind of like a Phantom Liberty where everyone goes, oh, actually, Cyberpunk's the coolest thing ever. Actually, Cyberpunk's the coolest thing ever. And Shattered Space came out, and while it seems for the most part to be all fine and good, the large consensus seems to be like, this is just flat out more Starfield. It doesn't really change anything, improve anything. It's not additive in any way that helps the game overall. There's like one or two new guns. There's no new companions. There's no new ship parts, and you can beat it if you just do the story in like 5 hours. Of course, there's other side quests and stuff. Heard the planet's cool. I heard there's like cool quests and stuff, but it more or less just seems to be more Starfield. And I've seen reviews for this as low as like 4 out of 5, 4 out of 10, 5 out of 10. There's also reviews that are like 8 out of 10, but some low reviews. I've seen a lot of videos come up being like, man, Starfield still sucks, or this is the final nail in the coffin for Starfield. And this game is probably going to come to PlayStation, likely with all the DLC by the time it comes out. But I'm just fascinated because when Starfield came out, they offered a version you could pay an extra $30 for, and you get to play the game 5 days early, and you got the first expansion for free. So I have not played any games in a week or more than a week, and I have Shattered Space sitting on my Xbox for already because I paid for it in advance. And I thought to myself, I have no game in progress, and I already own Shattered Space. And the idea of playing Shattered Space is not good. It's not fun. It's actually like, I don't want to play it. I'm not saying I never will.
Also, the idea, it's not even the game ain't good. It's just like, just don't.
Like, I don't want to boot up Starfield. I don't want to like have to get back into this again. Like, I don't want to play. I'd rather have $30.
Yeah. You can't get a refund now either because it's so long ago, right? Like,
yeah, no, you can't get a refund. You kidding me? And like, chances are I'll play it eventually,
Yeah.
and maybe I'll play it, and I'll be maybe like 6 months from now, a year from now, I'll be like, I played Shattered Space, and wow, guys, it's really good. That might happen.
Yeah.
I haven't played it. I can't speak on it, but I think even if I do say that, it's very clear, like it's just more Starfield, and like, you know, I do get the sentiment that many Starfield fans have that are like, yeah, it's more Starfield. Like, we like Starfield. That's what, you know, that's what you get. That's what you know, if you like it, you like it. Now, yeah, I get that. I know, like my brother, for instance, is a huge Starfield fan, and I like Starfield. Like, to reiterate to you guys, like both me and Joe played Starfield, beat Starfield. I liked it more than Joe. I gave it an 8, subjectively and critically. And Joe gave it an 8 critically, but he was more like, I think you were like a 6.
Yeah, it's a 6. I can't.
Personal enjoyment, you know?
Yeah.
And I've read a lot. I've read a lot. You know, it's crazy. When that game came out, there was this huge like outrage because IGN dropped a 7 out of 10 review for Starfield, and Starfield was supposed to be the hailing of Xbox's return to AAA games being exclusives being amazing. Yep. Like IGN's like 7, you know. But I think nowadays everyone looks at Starfield and like a 7 is completely like duh, like that's acceptable. Like I'm not saying it is a 7, but it's like a 7's a reasonable score for that game, and yeah, it's just wild that Shattered Space came out, this huge expansion add-on. I have no desire to play it, and the consensus seems to be, well, that came and went, and it's kind of just more of the same. So, Joe, I don't really know, you know, what the goal of my special topic is besides let's just talk about Starfield because we're good at that. But I guess the 2 questions I'll hit you with is, you know, when do you think this will come to PS5? Do you think it'll come with all the content in one package? Do you think it'll be buy the game, but then you can also buy the expansion stuff separate? And then, I mean, are you surprised with the fact that it's just more Starfield? Do you think, well, I'm just peppering you with questions. You can answer them or not. Are you surprised that it's just more of it? Do you think we'll ever get a Starfield 2? Do you think this is a one and done? Do you think Elder Scrolls 6 will be as exciting as we all hope it'll be? I don't know. What just talked about Starfield, man.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, this game it broke me, dude. Every time I think about this game, I say it all the time, like the first feeling, you know, the feeling of burnout, like in your brain. Like I can't describe it. All I can say is burnout, but anyone who's played a shit ton of games and like, so most people aren't like this, but some people, like myself, we're OCD and we have to find everything. Like Brian's the opposite. He mainlines the shit, and oftentimes that serves him better than the OCD serves me. But like I have to do everything, and there's so many people in the world that have to do everything, right? Because it's like, oh, it's so cool, like I love it. And the problem is you take those the reason, like you develop the habit from awesome games that give you amazing stuff for doing everything, and you end up applying that into the games that you're fucking like slouched in your chair, you don't care, and you just like, oh, I just want to get through this, but I've just got to do everything, right? And Starfield is that. Like, if you imagine that feeling of burnout in your brain, it's a certain feeling, that is Starfield. And every time I think of Starfield, that is what comes right to my frontal lobe. Like, it is so fucking annoying, and I hate it because I can't budge that feeling, like, as much as I'd like to, because there's elements of Starfield that I absolutely love. In terms of like the industry stuff, when do I think it's coming? I don't know, dude, because it's one of those things where like I would have expected it to come like, I mean, when did it release? September? Was it September?
1 year ago. A little over a year ago.
A little over a year ago. September 20. Is it 23? Yeah, 23. I would have expected it to be like 2025. Maybe I would have even pushed it to late 2024, but I don't think that's not happening. But I think what is going to happen is that it's got to be all the DLC, right? Like it has to be. They've got to get all the DLC out.
Will it be like one SKU for PlayStation and it's $70 and you get everything, or will it be like the SKU for the main game and then SKUs for the expansions to add on?
I think they'll come out with like some big bombastic like Spaces edition or whatever, and then it'd be like, oh, there you go, you can have the edition for like £40,
and then it'll also be on the PlayStation 5 Pro, so it'll probably play better than on the Xbox.
Yeah, this is the thing, right? I think there's no world where like Starfield takes a W for Xbox, because I don't think PlayStation players care about it. I really don't. I think there's an element of like there will be a small amount of people that care about it, but it's not something like Sea of Thieves where like it's got cross-play and like you know you can play with your buddies and all that stuff.
I wonder what you mean by small, because I think it'll sell at least 5 million copies on PlayStation.
I don't see it. I really
don't
don't
think
see
so?
it. I mean, it might sell a couple million, but I can't see it being like. I mean, it's not gonna be like a fucking Concorde. Don't get me wrong, but I don't see it, because the thing is like, who is it marketed to? Because I feel like a lot of people who play on PS5 genuinely have PCs as well. And if they're so interested in playing a Starfield, they're gonna go out and get it day one, because like
it's very different from Sony's, like their games though. That's the thing.
I know, but is that a problem? Is that gonna work in their favor, or is it gonna work against them? Like,
I don't know. I mean, I it's weird. It's interesting too, because like there's a timeline where Starfield came out cross-platform.
Yep.
Because I'm sure, I mean, I've seen it before. A lot of people probably think like, oh, Starfield got shit on more because it was exclusive.
Yeah.
I will say this: Starfield got more attention because it was exclusive. But I mean, if it had been cross-platform, would it have had higher scores? Would it have had lower scores? I mean, I think it more or less would have been the same. Myself,
I don't know, because there's some level of like objective fact here where like Xbox gave them another year on development.
Oh, then it could have been. Yeah, it could be better now. Actually,
and no, I mean like they needed another year. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things where like, if they didn't have that other year, what state was that game in? You know, and I don't have confidence that Bethesda would have been like, yeah, we need another year. I don't think they would have stretched,
especially with like all their failing projects around them.
Yeah,
you know?
like 76 just happened. Like, I mean, it's one of those things where fool me once, you know, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. And
Redfall was on its way.
And Redfall was like literally just getting pushed out the door. So yeah, I don't know. It's difficult. But all I do know when it comes to Starfield is I've seen a lot of, like with Shattered Space, I've seen some like trailers, some review people on YouTube and stuff talking about it, like Luke Stevens, a guy called Jaw Raptor spoke on it. I've seen Mr. Matty Plays' video on it, and all of them basically just say it's very disappointing. Like it's a fine DLC, but it's nothing on even something like Far Harbor, which I think narratively is the best of Fallout 4 has to offer, but it also isn't the best in the run-ins of best DLC Bethesda have ever made, in my opinion.
Yeah.
As someone who's played that and played a lot of their other DLCs, obviously it's nothing on Shivering Isles. It's nothing really even on Dawn Guard and Dragonborn DLC from Skyrim, and it just feels weird, right? Because like, I feel like in the past with Bethesda's DLCs, they've always kind of come out and done like really fucking well in terms of critically, or they've like had some massive impact. You know, it's weird that this one just seems to. I mean, if you're not keeping up on Starfield, I don't think you would know much about it either, because it's not really like popping off at all. Like,
it's got a consistent fan base, but it's not popping off.
Yeah. I don't know. I think Starfield's in a really weird place right now, where it's weird because Shattered Space seems to be doing like a lot more curated content compared to what Starfield had. Like, obviously you go to like one planet where the House of, is it Varun or whatever they're called? Like the snake people, the snake cult. I've heard like it has issues with like, the dialogue is the worst it's ever been in Starfield, because it's like Starfield already has issues, and Bethesda has issues with dialogue anyway, because they write everyone like they're robots, right? And they talk in like a cyclical nature, and they talk as if they know you're the center of the universe, even though they don't say it outright, the NPCs, right? And the problem with this DLC is that everyone in that cult, they talk in like tongues and riddles and all sorts of shit, like because they're weird, right? They're meant to be weird. Yeah. So couple that with the already weird writing and screenplay that goes on in Starfield, and you've got like a pretty fucking bad combo there. I don't think it's not for me. I'm not gonna play it. Like, I don't even have to say that. But yeah, I don't know.
Well, I think it's weird too that, like, you know, they designed Starfield completely missing one of the large elements you expect of Bethesda games, which is the cohesiveness and being able to just wander out in one direction and come across things. And, you know, Bethesda's came out and said, like, yeah, Starfield's different. But then they make this DLC where everything is one planet and you're on one planet, and it's more like your typical Bethesda experiences. But then the problem becomes that's at, what's the word I'm looking for? Not at, it's at conflict, I guess, with the rest of the game. What was the term you used?
At odds.
At odds. That's what I meant to say. Yeah. It's like at odds with the rest of the game, right? Because like you jump into Starfield and you realize the game is exactly as it was a year ago with no real change. But then you have this one planet with this whole expansion that gives you kind of an old Bethesda feel. But as they've marketed this, you never at any point in that expansion are asked to leave the planet. So you don't really interact at all with Starfield's like design philosophies. It's traveling to planets, it's spaceship. Like there's not a single spaceship fight in the expansion, nothing. It's all on that planet. So it's like, it just becomes even more of a hodgepodge in that way where it's like, okay, we have this expansion that's it's good enough, but like it's completely at odds with the rest of the game. And it's like, what is that? And there's already another expansion leaked called Starborn, which will probably be a year from now. I don't know if that's going to be another planet, if that's going to be like a way to improve galaxies or like travel, but it just kind of feels like at odds with itself. And I don't know, it's interesting to me. There's just such a long conversation that we had of a myriad of issues with Starfield, where I look back at my time playing Oblivion and Skyrim and Fallout 3 as some of my best gaming experiences. I love those games. And in a lot of ways, they're not terribly different from Starfield. Obviously, they're more cohesive, but the thing is, they're all 10, 15 years older, and at a time where the competition and what we expect from gaming wasn't the same. Also, we've seen the Bethesda trope over and over again. And then I think, too, a lot of the things I loved about Skyrim and Oblivion and Fallout 3 was kind of like the memeage of it. But the memeage was cool. It was like, oh, I took an arrow to the knee, or like Lydia, my companion in Skyrim, gets hit by a giant and then she flies 40,000 feet in the air. Like, or, you're playing Oblivion and someone says some really weird out of pocket thing randomly. And you're like, why the hell did you just say that? But the memes, like back in the late 2000s of those games and stuff, it made the games more lovable and more enjoyable. But now the memes have just kind of become like, oh, it's 2024 and Bethesda hasn't really got their shit together. Yeah. It's less of a meme and more of a just, oh, this is how you design games. And you don't really improve on any of that. Like, so now it's less of a meme and more just of a like, come on, get your shit together. Like, especially like the persuasion system, dude. Like, it was hilarious in Oblivion, but now it's literally, it's like, hey, Joe, stab yourself. And you're like, no. And I'm like, dude, just think about it. And you're like, well, you make a good point. And you stab yourself. And it's like, bro, like that's hilarious, but not hilarious in a way you wanted it to be. It's just, that's so lazy, So, and I don't know. I wonder if when this game's repackaged and comes to PS5, if it'll be looked at in a new light. But it's funny. It's like Microsoft. It's like, I don't know how they kept stepping on so many rakes and stuff, but like, it's wild because if you had told me in 2011 when Skyrim came out that Microsoft was going to lock down Bethesda's new IP and it was going to be Skyrim in space and it was going to be exclusively on their platform, I would have thought that Microsoft was about to make one of the biggest W's of all time. And they probably thought that too. But by the time Starfield came out and was an exclusive to their platform, Bethesda had just been running the same gambit for decades. And everyone was kind of like, oh, yeah, it's a good game, but it's got all these problems and I've seen it before, and we just kind of moved on. So I don't know. I guess that's kind of what I have to say about it. I'm baffled by Starfield, a game that I do like, and I would call it a good game personally, in my opinion, but I'm just baffled by it. And it's just, I don't know, this expansion just kind of reinforces it to me. And it's funny that like, and I know this is very PlayStation fanboy of me, but it's like in a year where we had only 2 PlayStation exclusives, one that got pretty much canceled, Concord, the other one's Astro Bot. PlayStation's year is still like Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Silent Hill 2 Remake, Stellar Blade. I mean, all these, Helldivers 2, these cultural phenomenons, it's still a great year for PlayStation. Microsoft this year's had Hellblade 2. And the Starfield expansion. And then they had that Aura History Untold, which is like a PC only RTS kind of game.
It's a Civ kind of game.
And then we're gonna get Indiana Jones, but that's obviously just like 3 months early from the PlayStation version. So it's just funny to me that it feels like this. It feels like, especially looking at Concord, right? Like Microsoft has not had a Concord failure this year, but like in a year like this with Concord and like no real PlayStation first party going on, I would argue this has been just a 2-3 times as strong year for PlayStation as Xbox. And I don't know, man. Shattered Space has got me thinking about all these old, tired topics that you and I go through, and it's just, I don't know, that's where I'm at.
It's one of those things where, like, I remember saying, I can't remember what episode it was. It might have been before we even rebooted Critical Frames or whatever, but I remember, like, saying that I think Starfields will be looked at better in time as it goes on. And, like, I don't know if I think that anymore. Because, like, this DLC reaffirms it, and it's not like it's gotten better with patches. There's mini-maps and shit now, but it's like, you aren't really doing much with this IP or this franchise to make anyone really care about it. And it's not really gelled with many people by the likes, comparatively to a Elder Scrolls or something, or a Fallout, that is making them obsess over it. There's more people talking about Fallout 76 than Starfield for the most part, and it's like, how? Like, that's a really old game, and I feel like it's one of those things where, like, have you ever seen the Nakey Jakey video on Starfield and Bethesda's outdated game design?
I may have, like, when it came out.
Yeah. Like, that's a good video for it. I watch him a lot, but, like, he always, like, seems to have his finger on the pulse when it comes to this stuff. And the dude's, like, he was talking about how, like, Fallout 4, everyone was loving it and stuff and really enjoying it. And obviously, as, like, when The Witcher was out and stuff at the same time, and it was one of those things where it was, like, people were still kind of clinging on to Bethesda and stuff. But he, like, came to a massive realization that, like, Fallout 4 was like this game that was so dated and so made in a vacuum, and it's wild considering it has like just little things. I know it's an RPG, and I know, like, it's not a shooter and stuff, but he made, like, a really apt comparison where he was like, Halo is, like, getting to the point where it can be, and it's like it can fucking get married and shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, as if it was a person. If Halo was a person, it would be getting married, or it would be going to college or going to university or whatever. And Starfield is still, or Bethesda is still struggling with, like, the most basic fundamental, like, I know gunplay is the best it's ever been for Bethesda in Starfield, but it's still not even as good as a game from, like, 2004 or 2002 in terms of its gunplay. And it's like, that's mind-blowing. I know they're not the same game, and it's one of those things where, like, I don't want to, like, compare apples to oranges here, but there's elements of it where it's like, we are so far in, where how long does that excuse last? How far do we go until are we gonna be in 2040 when Skyrim 2 or whatever, or, like, Starfield 2 is making gunplay nowhere near as good as, like, fucking Call of Duty from the 2000s, or where fucking Skyrim and Elder Scrolls or whatever still has shitty floaty attacking and poor, just collision and animations. And, like, I don't know how far I can give them. Like, they keep walking this plank, and then I keep putting out, like, more wood for them to keep going. Like, it's okay. Like, you don't, like, or not me, but everyone else. They keep putting more wood on this plank. It's like, they got to have to jump off eventually, you know what I mean? Like, and sort themselves out. But they just don't. And it's like, dude, like, I don't know what it is. I don't know whether it's their engine. I don't know whether it's the fact that they're a small team that thinks they're a big team. I don't know whether it's, like, I don't know if they outsource contractors, like how they do their, their production. I genuinely don't know. And it's one of those things where everyone just keeps throwing shit at the wall. Like, oh yeah, it's the engine, it's this, it's that, it's Todd Howard, he keeps spinning his web. But we're at a point where it's like, okay, something kind of has to change at this point, because you've got games like Baldur's Gate 3 coming out, and you've got games like Cyberpunk coming out narratively, obviously the botch launch aside. But ultimately, we're at a point still where it's like those games, now that they're patched, like Cyberpunk, are just, like, leaps and bounds better in every other way than Skyrim, than what Bethesda put out in contemporary times. So I don't know, dude. It's frustrating.
I think the root of a Bethesda experience is based in the early 2000s, and the root core concept of that game hasn't changed.
Yeah.
And with Starfield, the only ways it did change was for the worse, like segregated content.
Yeah.
Endless AI generated content.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that the whole industry is not only caught up to them, but I think the industry caught up to them before Fallout 4, but it was just kind of like, just on the cusp. Right. So, like, Fallout 4 kind of got a pass, but now it's like, we're way past caught up to you. Like, we've lapped you. Yeah. At this point. And I think it shows itself. And I don't know. I mean, I guess I don't know why. It's like on one hand, I could see why people be frustrated, but like, why do you keep talking about this? You yourself say it's a good game. Like the way you talk about it's like it's the worst game ever. It's like, well, I don't think that's fair though, because I don't think we talk about it like it's the worst game ever. I think we just are just. I think we're just surprised by the kind of game that it is. It's a game that's, in one hand, it's trapped in like it's trapped in like 2010s, but in another hand, it's trapped at its core, like even in like the 2000s.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I'll be interested to see what happens when it comes to PlayStation 5, if it'll get renewed life. I think I idiotically, and maybe it hasn't been long enough yet, it's only been a year. I think I idiotically thought that modders would make the game huge. Yeah. Is what I thought. Yeah. I thought that like modders would have you like full on space traveling, actually landing on planets. The planets would be cultivated with tons of actual handcrafted content. I thought we'd be there. Maybe we need 5 years for that. I don't know. Yeah. But I thought the modding would make this game huge. I genuinely did, and it doesn't look like it's having the impact that like Skyrim did. So, but yeah, I mean that's the competitor to PlayStation's new release this week was Shattered Space, and it's funny because to me it's like, I know it's not one for one. Silent Hill 2 is Konami. It's not a first party exclusive. It's a first party deal. Yep. But like when I look at Shattered, I could be playing Shattered Space as the new hotness on Xbox, or I could be playing Silent Hill 2 on PlayStation. It's like night and day how much more excited I am to play what PlayStation's offering. And yeah, that's not a PlayStation game, but they had the foresight to make the deal for that game to be there. Yes. To have that exclusive. So
yeah. I think I want to like go back on what you said about like the fact that we don't hate Starfield. There's not an element of me that's like, oh, I wish Starfield fucking, I'm glad it was shit, or I'm glad it was like polarizing is probably the word I would use.
I like it more than Joe.
You do. But like when I was playing it, dude, I had highs of 9 out of 10 shit. Like this, I'm one of the individuals that actually really enjoyed the first like 20 hours. Even like people complain that there's no step out moment and there's no amazing start like in Skyrim. You're finally awake and all that. I honestly think it was great. Like the start in Starfield is very similar to the way like it's quaint in that, and it's novel in that it doesn't go too crazy too quickly. And it's very similar to the way New Vegas does it, where it just kind of like, yeah, you start out and you fight those Crimson Raiders and stuff, but then it's kind of like, okay, you can go out and do your thing and we'll trust you and stuff like that. Obviously you have a main mission and everything, but it's one of those things where it just felt like good. My issue was like the repeat brain aneurysm I had playing it in the latter portions of my playthrough massively. And again, you could say that's your fault, Joe, for trying to do everything in one playthrough and seeing everything, and you should have gone for the main story and done all that. If you know. But ultimately, like, if you're going to put this shit in front of me, like, at least make it interesting, at least make that loop evolve. My problem is the gameplay loop didn't evolve. So ultimately, I don't hate Starfield, even though I give it a 6 out of 10, because I think objectively, like Brian said, I think this game's an 8 out of 10 for sure. But I just think my experience is a 6 out of 10. Like, I just think for me, I just didn't click with it on that latter portion of my playthrough. And there was missed opportunities all the way through. But I just think the reason why we talk about it so much and we always go back to the well is because it's such a fascinating video game to analyze, because it's not just a game where we go, oh yeah, Metal Gear Solid Snake Eater Delta remake in the future. When we talk about that, it's like, oh yeah, well, it was good, but it wasn't like, it wasn't a great game or whatever, and we move on from it. Or, Astro Bot, great game, fantastic, love it, and we move on from it. But Starfield is a very fascinating title for me because ultimately it's a game that is so representative of Bethesda in every single asset, how they are now. And I think there's very rarely a game, even though every game represents their studios, there's very rarely a game that is so unique in that can represent their studio in such a way that it's kind of like, because all the nuance of the conversation with Bethesda is nuance. It's so in depth. So yeah, I don't think it's bad. I just think it's one of those things where it's like, oh, dude, like you just, like you're this, like I feel like they're genuinely so close to greatness. Like every time they make, like when they made Starfield, they were so close. But the problem is that so close is in it for me is in every element I talk about. So what happens is all those elements have a caveat every time whether it's the NPCs, whether it's the art style, whether it's the flow of the game, whether it's the constant loading screens, whether it's the combat, whether it's the bugginess, like, or the narrative, like all those elements have caveats, but all of them are also so close to being amazing, So
yeah. It's almost like Bethesda needs its Sony Santa Monica moment where they just
go away.
they kind of go away and they come back and God of War 2018 drops and it's like, oh, they're Naughty Dog level now.
Yeah.
You know, like, because Bethesda is I mean, when you look at the grand scheme of the world, Bethesda is still one of the greatest developers in the world. I mean, what I mean by that is like they're in the top 100 or couple hundred for sure. I mean, of the world, like, they're still really good, but like they're not on a CD Projekt Red or a Rockstar level.
No.
And they need to, like, I think people said back at Skyrim they needed to go and and come back with something new, but they've come back twice and it's just the same. And I don't know. They need that next glow up. But we can get away from the Starfield talk. Joe, we'll talk about what we've been playing. I'll go first since I haven't played anything. Well, I've literally not touched a game since we last recorded. Obviously, my last game was Death Stranding, which we're going to do a Critical Frames Plus episode on Death Stranding soon enough here. But Death Stranding, what a great game to finish before I kind of went on a little gaming hiatus. And I also started delivering just like Sam Porter Bridges. So I'm still reeling from how great that game was. And it's so cool that, like, as I finished it, there was just new stuff about Death Stranding 2 dropping. I actually don't know why we didn't. I should have brought some of that up to cover in this recording, like Death Stranding 2, like kind of showing off some of the stuff you can do with the photo mode and how you're going to be able to, the photo mode is going to impact the story, which is wild, very Kojima thing. Showing off new stuff. I'm wondering, I saw some people saying that, like, I don't think you're going to play as Sam Porter Bridges the whole game. And I'm like, okay, that would be very Kojima. I wonder who you'd play as, but very cool to see Death Stranding in the spotlight right now. But yeah, I haven't played anything. I think I know for a fact the next thing I'm going to play is going to be Silent Hill 2 in 3 days. Mm-hmm. I'll have to, the funny thing is like the excitement for a new game you would think would make me want to get right to it, but I'm still feeling like I'm going to go DoorDash that day and I'll just play what I can later. Yeah. But that comes out. So Silent Hill 2 will be the next thing for me. Man, after talking about Starfield, I'm probably not going to do it, but what I almost want to do is download it and just jump in and just go to that planet to see how it kicks off and then turn my console off. Like, I don't want to play it, but I just kind of do want to see, like, I want to be like, okay, Starfield, very snooty and be like, okay, Starfield, I'm giving you 20 minutes to get me engaged. Yeah. And then no. You could
probably beat it in that time because the value of the DLCs are really short.
For haters. But yeah, so next thing for me will be Silent Hill 2. But Joe, what have you been playing in the past 10 days or so?
I'm excited to hear, like, a little bit more in terms of what, like, you don't have to go into detail because we'll save it, like you said, for the Patreon episode. But I'm excited to hear about what you thought overall about, like, the Death Stranding, like your final Death Stranding moments, because I think you were up to, I think when you last spoke, I can't remember if you were like up to chapter 11 or 12 or something like that. I think maybe a bit before, but I'm interested to hear kind of what you think on the ending and everything and stuff like that.
Well,
don't go into detail though. Don't go into detail.
Okay, I won't go into detail, but yeah. So like the recording last week, I can't remember. Did I beat it before the recording last week or
no?
I can't recall.
You were talking about them being on the beach and Princess Beach and all that stuff.
So like before, when the recording, I guess 2 weeks ago, I was almost about to beat it, and I was on the beach right before like I said, I'll keep it vague, and like people who've beaten it will know what I'm talking about. But like I was near the end of the game, and I was basically within 10-20 minutes of the section where you're on the beach and the credits are playing.
Yep.
Which oddly enough was one of the moments of the game I enjoyed the least. But Joe's reframing of the sequence has made me think on it more. And maybe in a future playthrough, I'd like it a lot more because there's like a narrative element to why that was so boring and frustrating for me. Mm-hmm. The credits on the beach part, but the whole way the game concludes, it has like three endings almost. You have the credits on the beach, you have the kind of I guess the ending with your like discovering your past and who you are.
Yep.
And then you have maybe 4 endings because then you have the ending with BB and you have the ending, which is kind of like everything's done, wrap things up in chapter 14 if you want. But I loved how the story concluded. It kind of like, it's kind of amazing how Kojima kind of kept you having no idea what was going on, introducing all these elements. And then right at the end, he kind of like ties your shoes. He's like, tie up that story, ties up that story. Okay, your shoes are tied. You kind of know how things kicked off, why there's these BTs, who you are, who your parents are, who BB is. And I thought it was beautiful. I genuinely, like some of the spoilers I'd looked up ahead of time, but I genuinely didn't know that Bridget was not your mom. I liked that element. The ending was so beautiful. And I like I said, I've never cried during a game. I would love to one day. I still haven't, but like, it was very emotional. The where he's going to take, but you have that final walk to take BB to the incinerator, which is beautiful. And then you get to the incinerator and it's like, is he going to do it? Is he going to do it? And then he's like, he can't do it. He doesn't do it. And he's like, I'm going to take the baby out of the pod, and the baby's not moving. And he's like pushing on Lou. And he's like, Lou, come on, please, Lou. And he's like pushing to different spots and kind of like jostling him a little bit, trying to get him to wake up. He's like, Lou, please don't. He's like crying. He's like, Lou, don't leave me. It's like, and then Lou wakes up and, and he has Lou out of the little incubator, and now it's like his child. And then you get to the kind of the final scene, the secret scene. I think it's after the final credits where you see like Lou's hand and it says Luis. And it's like, oh, Phoebe is a girl.
Phoebe's a girl.
But very emotional ending. Like, it's weird that like on one hand, like you can kind of objectively say like Kojima's sci-fi elements, like if you really try to get into the nitty gritty, like they kind of don't make sense.
Right.
But he also does make them all make sense for the story and the narrative as it ends. It's all understandable.
It's all Kojimbo jargon and just like
it's like he didn't need to get in that much jargon to get his point across, but the fact that he did go so deep with the jargon made it feel so original.
Yeah.
It was a beautiful ending, and I'm so intrigued by the world. And I think one of the other things is just, and I think I said this before, but like one of the biggest shockers to me is I completely had my opinion changed on the variety of the gameplay. Like, I don't actually think that's an issue with the game at all. I think many people who do start playing this game and play for a few hours, I think you'll probably have the same conclusion to me, is like, oh man, it's just delivering stuff. There's no variety. But like, as the game really goes on and you play, and all you do only deliver stuff, but like as it continues to throw new elements at you, new story sequences, new ways of delivering, new things being introduced, like it didn't really feel like it needed any more variety. Yeah. I think it's just if you need a game where you're just in combat all the time, it's just not going to be for you. But like it does have the variety. And I loved it, dude. I'm really shocked how much I liked it, because I actually thought, like, I know myself, and I was like, I'm probably going to like Death Stranding. It's going to be a game I like. But I didn't think I'd like it this much. It's really good. Yeah. Not as much as Joe with the favorite game of all time level, but like I liked it so much. And now I'm just like, man, this is such an original experience. Like, I can't wait to play Kojima's other games, which is primarily Metal Gear. And I'm excited to get into it. So,
yeah, dude. I mean, he's got a pretty prolific sort of catalog under him. He's got Snatcher, he's got Police Notes, he's got Metal Gear, he's got now Death Stranding. And obviously he's going into like OD.
Fizzant.
He's doing quite a lot right now. And on the Tokyo Game Show, when you saw him the other day, like his hair is all like puffy and like he looked like he hadn't been sleeping in for a week.
He's like, I just got done like developing a new sequence in Death Stranding 2.
Yeah, it's his bedhead Kojima arc. But yeah, dude, I think it's incredible. The endings for me are just like so fucking good. Like, I just love everything about it. It's one of those things where you went into spoilers there, but I lost it finding out your past with Cliff.
Yep.
I lost it on the beach when you hug Amelie, and I lost it at the end with Lou as well. Like that those three moments was like, fuck, like. I was like, oh yeah, so that Amelie moment, that's the end of the game, cool, and it carried on. And I was like, oh no, here it comes again, no. It was just. I think I was shocked that to me the game had a lovable cast. I did not expect that. Yeah, like I liked Dead Man, Die Hardman. Yeah, I liked Fragile. I liked. I guess I already said Hartman. Mm-hmm. No, I didn't say Hartman. Mm-hmm. There's Hartman. There's Dead Man. And then there's Die Hardman. Yeah. I liked all of them. I liked all the characters so much. And the dude, like the Kojima cheesiness
is super dad joke, cheesy level bad.
Yeah.
But some of it really hit for me, like the part where she says, I don't know if I can't remember how it goes, but basically she's like, I'm fragile, and then Norman Reedus is like, but you're not fragile. Yeah.
But not that fragile.
And I was like, that's corny as heck, but like, you guys are friends, and I like this moment.
That made me grin from ear to ear.
I grinned. Bro. I did too. I was like, man, that's cool.
Yeah, it was dope. What do you think to the Die Hardman scene when he breaks down? It's pretty...
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. Like, I don't know. I kind of feel like, is it accurate to kind of feel like Die Hardman's like kind of a bad dude, but he's not?
I think he made just a massive mistake, like a huge mistake. But I think
like a colossal failure, but he's not a bad guy. Yeah.
I mean, I think it's Tommy O. Jenkins who plays him. He's in Wednesday as well.
Amazing performance.
And like, I think just the capture on his face is just mind blowing for a PS4 title.
Oh, yeah.
You know, like you can see the eye drops and stuff. And
yeah.
That was definitely a moment for me. That moment can come across like pity me, but there's an element of like he's actually genuinely like, you know, just broken down as well. Like he's fucked up. So yeah. But I think we'll leave the more nuanced talk for the Patreon episode. But that's really cool, dude. I'm glad you liked it. And I'm glad I could kind of give you another perspective on that beach ending as well, even though it might not be.
For sure. Because what was that? You fixed my perspective. You actually completely changed my mind on God of War 2018. Because one of my least favorite moments of 2018 was the final Baldur fight, because it was the exact same fight as the beginning, except with less cinematic flair, in my opinion. You didn't have like the fighting each other through buildings and stuff.
Yeah, you had the giant Thamer, I think it was, picking you up and stuff. Yeah,
you had that. Yeah, so I thought, my opinion of the ending of 2018, that battle, my opinion was like, Joe, it was like the same battle I already did, but less cool.
Yeah.
And it was just kind of Baldur again. And then like Joe was painting the whole like, the narrative's really about the like father and son, mother and son, and like the two sides of that, and how, their relationships and what's going on here on a familial and emotional level. And that completely changed my interpretation of that scene to where I love it now. So maybe that'll happen with Death Stranding.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things like with the God of War thing, I think, because that ending fight scene is not about the fight. It's about showing Atreus and Kratos fighting as one. And you really see it. It's like in the choreography is representative of that narrative. And it's like, oh shit.
As one unified, while the mother and son are not
divided. Yeah.
On the other side.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's not like, what's cool about it is it's not, you're not fighting you versus them. It's you fighting against the nature of, this relationship that was failing at the start. Now it's together. Now it's working. Obviously, there's still things to work on. That's why we have Ragnarok. But they come together, and you're not fighting you versus them. You're fighting you versus Baldur, you versus yourself, and also you versus Freya in many ways. It's really cool. I don't know. That's really cool. But yeah, it's Death Stranding. Same thing.
Death Stranding might have the same effect when I replay. I guess the real difference with Death Stranding is that it's, to make its point, it's purposefully slow and boring. Yeah. Like that's to make its point. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see in time.
Yeah, 100%.
So, what have you been playing, Joe?
I have been playing a bunch of games. I beat Astro Bot. I platinumed it. That was...
Is it your game of the year?
What's come out this year? Helldivers 2.
That you've played, like Helldivers,
Astro Bot. What is that? All I've played this year?
It's new this year. It kind of feels like. Because like you played games that just weren't new this year. Like Survivor was last year.
2024 games. Like I'm trying to think. Like I guess. I mean, I played Shadow of the Erdtree, but I've fallen off that, so that's not even close to like being in my game of the year. But yeah, I think it is. I think Helldivers right behind Astro Bot game of the year for me. I have to say.
One of Sony's weakest years, and your top two games are from Sony.
I don't know. I bleed blue. What can I say? But yeah, it was phenomenal. It was a phenomenal time. Just grinning from ear to ear. There's nothing really I can say. The more I played it, I would say the ending of it, not to spoil it, because I mean it's not really much to spoil, but it was really fucking dope. Like you kind of run through this area in the credits, and you like destroy the names as you go through. Really cool. And it's like thanking all the developers and stuff that worked on it and stuff, thanking Sony and everything. And then at the end, it's like, and also thank you for playing it. And it's like, oh yeah, thank you. Like thank you for appreciating my money. Like,
yeah,
you know,
would you think? And we cannot spoil it. We cannot say what it is. But did you understand why they chose the 301 bot to be what it was? The bot 301.
301.
That's at the end of the master level challenge.
Trying to remember what it is.
Yeah, it's a very obscure character that seems to have no relevance to the end of the game. But
it's Chop Chop. I'm reading it now. I didn't know at the time. Chop Chop Master Onion from Parappa the Rapper. There you go.
Yeah, like that's the most final bot in the game. I just don't get why. I don't mind, but I don't get why.
I don't know. Maybe they just couldn't figure out where to put him.
Yeah, because they you know that one I can't remember what his name is, you know, like the polygonal man, the purple polygonal bot that's like that was supposed to be the American mascot for Sony, but it failed. That's also the final boss when you play the campaign of PlayStation All-Stars Battle Royale. That would have made sense as a final bot for me. But it chose Chop Chop Man or whatever.
Yeah, so. The face for the polygonal man. Yeah. That was cool. And when I saw that, I was like, that's really dope. Terrible design, but yeah, back in the day. I think I beat that hard. I locked in. You know, I was saying on the last episode, Astro Bot's quite hard for me. I like fully locked in this time around when I was playing it last because like I beat that final mission in like 20 minutes or some shit. Like it was like easy. So I must have been having a bad day or something. Great game all around. Like I genuinely can't like. I totally understand like the criticisms of it not really having its own world and it being massively reliant on PlayStation iconography.
Yeah, that's a me thing more than
yeah. But I think overall,
so is it a 10 for you?
I would say it's a 10. Yeah, I would say it's a 10 out of 10.
Very nice.
I got to relook at my top 50 games of all time because it might even go in there, dude. Like straight up.
Dude, it didn't make my top 100.
Damn.
And I loved it.
Damn.
I loved
it. So it's definitely somewhere within the top 100 for me. So I moved on from Astro Bot. And I went straight into Dead Rising, the remake, DRDR. Great game.
Looks like a blast.
It's very fun. From a gameplay perspective, I've had 2 games now where I'm just playing it for gameplay reasons, you know, not really narrative, and it's refreshing. And Dead Rising, still as good as I remember. Obviously, still, it has dated elements that I'll get into, but I would say the mall is incredible. The remake remaster, I don't even know what it technically is like really, really dope, really detailed. The graphics are great. They've changed like things like voice actors and some lines that have pissed people off or just like frustrated some people. But I mean, the last time I played Dead Rising, I was young, you know, like too young to play it. So it doesn't really bother me. Frank West was never like an amazing character anyway. He was just like the vessel to experience this mauling and this sandbox. I think it's a really fun game. And it's one of those games that I think, you know, we were talking about pacing on the last episode. I think this is one of the few games, or one of actually, I would say one of the best games to utilize pacing in a very unique and intricate way, because the game is basically like you get thrown into this mall and you have 72 hours to finish all your objectives, everything you want to do. And then you have to get to the helicopter to get out, right? And there's like 5 different endings or some shit, depending on what choices you make in the story, which is pretty expansive for the time. And basically, like, you're always on a timer. Like, your people are calling you up, saying there's survivors to rescue. You also got to balance that with the main story, you know, like finding out why the fuck this has gone on in the mall, why there's a zombie, you know, infection outbreak started, figure out who's responsible, because you're a photojournalist. But it's just fantastic. I wish there's a little bit more time between all the main missions. There's elements of, like, giving you all the missions at the start of the day, and then you kind of have to scramble to get them all done very quickly. And then the rest of the day, towards the mid and the late, there's not really much going on aside from a couple of survivors. And yeah, dude, I just think, like, you know, we talk about Bethesda, you know, ludonarrative dissonance, pacing issues, stuff like that. But ultimately, I'm like, dude, this is it. Like, this is how you do pacing in video games. You keep people focused on the straight and narrow, but also, you know, like, I don't know how to, like, yeah, just on the straight and narrow, but also give them chances to go and do other stuff. The story is weak. You're muted, Bryan.
Yeah, that's the first time I've done that where I've left the mute on.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
What were you saying?
I was just gonna say, I think that what Dead Rising has going for is there's not really any other game that does what it does the same.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah, it's very
even
unique.
if it's a little janky, if the story's not amazing,
Yeah,
it's still like a unique experience to blast.
Yeah.
At least the first two. It sounds like 3 and 4 sucked.
Yeah,
people,
3 and 4 weren't very good. I played all of them and they weren't good. So, but yeah, just a fantastic time. And I would say what's cool about Dead Rising that like I told you in the chat and you kind of went like that's a little bit cringe and stuff or whatever or kind of whack. And I really like it is it's a Japanese game but it's set in America. And obviously these are all American characters with like, you know, American context and everything and background. But it's clear that like from a stylistic standpoint in terms of how they do the cutscenes and how they do the voice acting and the writing and stuff, it's clearly Japanese because like there's elements where there's like bosses throughout the game called psychopaths that like are in the mall at certain times. And there's one guy in the supermarket that like he's really protective over his shop, like really protective. He's lost it. And he just starts screaming at you, and like the way the camera, like he gets really close up to the guy, and he shouts. And when he shouts, he's like, "Get the hell out of my store!" And he like really shouts for a long time, holds that note. As he's holding the note, like and yelling, like there's like ripples, like waves, kind of thing, like he's doing a Dragonborn shout, and it's just very Japanese. You know, it's very Yakuza and stuff, and yeah, very very fun, very cool. But like I said, the narrative's fun, but it's weird. The main ending, the true ending, is kind of shit. You basically fight this guy on a tank, and then like that's the end. And you like this is really weird. Like you beat him. Frank drops to his knees. He screams randomly for no reason, really. And then it's just kind of like title cards. It's like text on screen saying like, this is what happened after. Da-da-da, da-da-da, da-da-da. And it's like,
okay.
That's fucking lame. And that's from the original. That was in the original. And they just, I guess they just never finished like a proper ending or something by the time development was finished. So they like quickly put that in or something.
You think they'd fix it up a bit for this release?
Yeah, it's a shame. But it's one of those things where, you know, it's fine. And this is a very true to form remake or whatever they want to call it. And yeah, I have to say, like, I would say obviously there's jank. There's some issues with the narrative. I would say I would give this like a very strong 8 out of 10. I
thought you'd say that. It sounded like an 8 to me.
Yeah, it's a very strong 8. It's not like in my top 50 games of all time, but I'm so glad I bought it. I'm so glad I supported it because maybe we'll get Dead Rising 2 remake because that was the one I played the most, even though I don't think it was as iconic as Dead Rising 1.
Yeah.
But yeah, currently going through that, getting the platinum. I have to kill like 53,000 zombies to get the platinum. And in my 2 playthroughs, I've only done 15,000. So yeah. So I'm farming the shit out of that right now. And I've also started modding Cyberpunk. Put a reshade on it.
First playthrough with Phantom Liberty. I'm stoked for you.
First playthrough on PC, Phantom Liberty. I found my old save from like 2021 or some shit when I picked up the game and it was broken as fuck. And I never went back at like level 2. So I've basically been using that save to test mods on. Yeah, I've just been modding the shit out of it. I'm very excited to play that. Let me think some of the mods I've got. I've got some like world mods that like make gang wars happen and police chases happen that aren't on you. I've got a vehicle customizer mod where I can take it to like a garage and they can like you can change the paint job and all that stuff and the engines and stuff. Yeah, dude, and like some HUD mods. I've changed the HUD to like a white color.
Dude, the more time, well, I'm just thinking, the more the time passes, like I'm not willing to say objectively, like I gave Cyberpunk a 9, but I think for me, I think the game's a 10.
Really?
I don't think I'll say objectively, but like just for me, because that game is incredible, dude. Like Cyberpunk is kind of one of a kind. It is such a well-realized, high-quality, you know, Blade Runner-esque futuristic experience, and it's just the writing is so good, and the music and the visuals. Every time I think about that game, I'm like that. I feel like that's a next-gen game. Like I know it came out on the PS4 and Xbox One, but I feel like the version we have today, fully ramped up with the Phantom Liberty, like that is a PS5, Xbox Series X next gen title. It's a very special game.
I think that game is more next generation than something like Jedi Survivor that came out after.
Yeah, for sure. It is. It's like, it's incredible. Just the way the game plays and you feel like a part of the world and I don't know. It was the animation quality.
Yeah.
The way characters talk to you while you're like in gameplay.
Yeah.
Like I can't remember. I said it on, I think it was a Sacred Icon episode a year or so ago, but like I was talking to a guy and like he was just doing this. He was eating his food or whatever. And he accidentally knocked over a bottle. And then like his other hand went and rushed and caught it on its side, and picked it up and sat it back down. And I'm like, holy shit. Like the people in Starfield can barely keep their eyes open, let alone pick up a bottle that's fallen over.
Yeah. They like talk to you with their back to you and they turn and they're like, oh, hello there or whatever. Like the Angry Joe review.
Like in Cyberpunk, it's like, yeah, hey Joe, I saw you were doing that, and I'm like, I'm over here, I'm like picking up my drink, and I'm like, I dropped my phone, let me pick that up, and like, and the whole time you're just telling me about your day, and like I'm just doing all this stuff naturally. I'm like fixing this blanket up back here, and I'm like brush, it's just crazy, dude.
I think
so good.
I think that element of like how interactive how the world seamlessly goes into conversating with NPCs that are in the overworld to then it being like an interactable cutscene whilst they're doing things that are mocapped and like animated and they interact with everything around them.
Timers on like decisions.
Yes, and I think that element alone for Cyberpunk is one of the most like innovative things for Western RPGs going forward, because until now we've never really had that. Like even Witcher 3, it was like you would talk to someone and it would play like a cutscene or whatever, and Geralt would talk to them or whatever, or it would just go into a dialogue where you're stationary. Like it doesn't like there's an element of like you still feel like you're in the overworld, you'll still feel like there's not been like a disconnect, but at the same time there's a level of like, oh shit, like we're in some next level production here now. Like,
see, it's easier to say in hindsight, because I definitely didn't say this at the time, but like Cyberpunk to me is clearly a extremely talented studio with a ton of passion, having an ambition level that was so high they couldn't clear it properly.
Yeah.
Like what they were trying to do with the amount of money and time and like pleasing investors and bosses and companies, it was just, the ambition was so high they couldn't do it with their parameters without failing first.
Yeah.
Like the 2020 Cyberpunk launch was a complete fuck up. It was not fair to customers. They deserved all the criticism they got. But what they were trying to achieve and strive for with the time frame and money and powers that be in place, like they basically, it's like they shot for the moon, and halfway there they got, or maybe 3/4 the way there, a missile hit them and they got knocked out of the sky, but they fixed that baby up and then they flew to the moon and they freaking landed. Yeah. So I'm just so impressed. Like I think there's an argument to be made. Maybe their ambition shouldn't have been that high so that they could have delivered the product properly. But now that we're on this side of things, look what we have. We have, I mean, and like, I know they're going to make another Cyberpunk, but like, man, the bar is high for creating a game that lives up to that.
Yeah. 100%. I remember when we did I think we were both ill at the time actually. And we did like a Sacred Icon Cyberpunk 2.0 / Phantom Liberty like review or whatever, because like I haven't played any of them yet technically, and I still haven't.
Yeah, and the thing is, I'm saying all these things and you're mostly agreeing with me, but you haven't played Phantom Liberty yet, so you're going to agree with me more.
Yeah, exactly. And I remember saying like this game, like I would say when I played it is an 8 out of 10 for me.
That's what I said. Yeah.
But I like it has the feeling and the I don't know, the experience, the narrative stuff. The themes make it feel like it's a 10 out of 10. It's just that the gameplay at the time when I played it, 1.6, wasn't 100%, right? And it had little bits that needed to be changed. So I'm excited, dude. I'm excited to jump into Phantom Liberty. I think this weekend I'm gonna like really try wrap up Dead Rising. So I can then have a fresh, clean slate. I don't want to be playing 2 games at once, you know?
Totally.
And just get into Cyberpunk. My idea is I'm going like melee this time. Before I was like netrunner, hacking people, machine guns, pistols. But I think what I'm gonna have now, I'm gonna go like pistol, katana, mantis blades, and not really do much hacking. And I'm excited. I'm excited to try a different playstyle. So
yeah, that'll be awesome, dude. Yeah, I'm excited for you to because I can't wait for a Cyberpunk replay. It's just I did it a year. It was a year ago I played it with Phantom Liberty.
Yeah.
So I need a little more time. it's one of those things where like I could play it now and have fun, but it's more fun if you wait for the right time.
Yes.
To replay it. And maybe I'll replay it on the Pro with enhancements. I mean, if anybody's going to do something, I would say CD Projekt Red will probably do something for the Pro eventually for Cyberpunk. So that'll be cool. Yeah. But so when we come back next week, we'll have a lot to talk about. Joe will be further. He'll have finished Dead Rising Platinum. He'll have started more Cyberpunk. I'll have played Silent Hill 2. I'll keep you guys updated on my DoorDash stories. But guys, this was an awesome episode. I'm glad we finally got this one wrapped up. If you want to send us an email or voice clip, send that to criticalframes@gmail.com. If you want to support us monetarily on Patreon, you can go to patreon.com/criticalframes. It's only $5. You get a bunch of benefits there. We're going to have a new Death Stranding episode going up on the Patreon probably within a week for Critical Frames Plus people. And follow us on Twitter at Critical Frames. But that's another episode in the bag, episode 21. It was an awesome time, Joe. You got any final things you want to say before we get out of here?
No, I mean, I guess I'll just say, like, in terms of people writing in and voice messaging in, like, if you guys just want to, like, talk about what you're playing at the time, you don't have to necessarily... Yeah, you don't have to, like, it doesn't have to pertain to... what we're talking about on the show. It can be anything. If you literally
wrote in and said, Bryan and Joe, what do you think of Burger King? I would put it on the show.
Yeah. Even if you want to talk about Nintendo, I'll talk about it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We love it all. So dude. Very fun episode. We had some technical difficulties at the start, but we got through it.
We had like 4 technical difficulties, and I was like, in my mind, I was like, we hit 5, we need to reschedule. But we didn't hit 5.
Very good episode. Very fun. Excited to see what you think of Silent Hill 2 on the next episode or the episode after that. But yeah, that's about it, Bryan.
I'm hoping I can use my hype to be like, Joe, Silent Hill 2, oh my, and talk about it, and then make Joe buy it immediately.
Okay.
So.
I mean, you might. You almost did it with the Portal, and that was a much more expensive product.
Yeah, totally. Okay, all right, guys. Well, it was a good time chatting with Joe here, going through all this stuff. I hope you guys found something to enjoy. We look forward to hearing from you next week, and we will be back. Have a good one, guys. Peace.
Critical Frames, a PlayStation podcast, is created in partnership between Bryan Arvett and myself, Joe Smalley. It's available on all mainstream audio and video feeds. All music featured in the show is by Caleb Webster. We're incredibly grateful to the following All Access Pass patrons for the support they've shown for this independent venture: Boba's Feet, Darren.jpg, Diente D. Hombre, Irish Phoenix, and Music Tree.